our Planning Commission meeting. If I could have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on to roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez. Here. Chair Sanchez.
Present.
Commissioner Quill. Here. Commissioner Liang. Here. Commissioner Wolbert.
Here.
Commissioner Chang. Here. Commissioners Guerrero, Jones, and Jaramillo are excused. We have quorum.
Thank you, Stephanie. Continuing on to the administration of oath. Anyone wishing to speak, if you could stand now, we'll administer the oath.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Raise your right hand, Hank. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Sure, Hank.
Perfect. Moving on to public comments, items not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda tonight? I see no one wishing to speak. We'll continue on. Onto the consent agenda. Consent items are considered routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or member of the public. Going on to the staff report.
Yes. Good evening, Chairperson and Commissioners. On the consent agenda this evening, we have 3 items. The first is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of January the 14th, 2020. Those are complete as presented. We also have item number 2, which is Real Property Street Vacation 1530-432. And we also have Real Property Street Vacation 1530-432. I would also like to note that in front of you I provided a revised resolution for both of those 2 items. There were a couple of minor typos that were discovered after the item went out. I've made those corrections. Primarily the resolution number was wrong at the end, and there was a transposing of numbers in the resolution. So we made those corrections, and those are in front of you. Our recommendation remains the same for both of those items. We also do have the Deputy Public Works Director and City Engineer here with us if you have any particular questions of him. But other than that, our recommendation is for those 3 items to be approved. Thank you.
Are you saying on the agenda item 1, 2, and 3 are on the consent?
That is correct.
I have questions regarding number 2, so I request that it not be on the consent calendar. I'm okay with item 1 and 3.
So we could, if inclined, you may make a motion to for approval of items number 1 and 2, or excuse me, 1 and 3, and for discussion for number 2, you can make that motion and act
Perfect.
accordingly. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I'm going to open public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on these items? If not, I'm going to make a motion that we take out item number 2 so that we can have further discussions on that. And we will close public comment at this time and make a motion to approve items 1 and 3 about the minutes of time and the Real Property Street Vacation 15.30-423.
432.
432.
Oh, 432. Oh, so that's a correction there. 432.
Second.
All right.
Do you need a second?
So, yeah,
Second.
we have a motion. We have a second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So the motion passes. Items number 1 and 3 have passed, and we will start discussion on item number 2. If we could get a report on that, a short report, that way the public will know kind of what we're discussing.
We don't have a presentation for this item, but we had a request This was actually brought before the Planning Commission, I'm going to say a little over 2 years ago or so. The applicant had been working with this, and we've had some changes at the staff level in terms of the processing. When the item was approved by the City Council, there was a 1-year expiration date on that, so it expired, and now we're coming back. This property, the street vacation involves the project that's known for Brickley Environmental. They've, when they came back, they were looking to close the streets along Montgomery, I Street, and basically they owned that entire quadrant, and they wanted the vacation of the street, and we're going to create the cul-de-sacs at the end of 13th and 14th Street. So it's coming back before you for reconsideration so that it can go back to the City Council. And I'm not sure if you have any specific questions or...
So,
I understand. So then, in this Exhibit B...
Commissioner
the
Lopez,
proposed-
really quick, I'm going to open public speaking as that for this item, and yes, so go for it.
Go ahead. On this exhibit then, where it's proposed, we're vacating it and making it a cul-de-sac?
not sure.
These parcels right here are residential housing?
By chance,
This-
I'm not sure if you have the staff report in front of you, but let me...
I'm going on the resolution that was left here for us. So this is Exhibit B. It says here proposed vacation,
Yes.
Are these parcels residence
No,
houses?
that's...
Those are just
that's
those
this.
empty, okay. Okay, all right then. That's all I needed to know.
And for the administrative record, the question that was asked is, we are, part of this proposal, we're vacating Montgomery Street, and there are some parcels that are between 14th and 13th Street, and those, there's a total of 10 parcels that are owned between 13th and 14th and up to Montgomery that the applicant owns. He also owns the property that's across the street of Montgomery, and so the cul-de-sac will create the overall assemblage of all those to be concurrent with the property across the street from Montgomery.
Are there any questions or other comments wanted to be addressed on this item? If not, I'll close public hearing for this item, and I will entertain a motion to pass item number 2.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, all right. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on to public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from the staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and also fill out a request to speak form. The forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak into the microphone. Say and spell your name and give your address for the taped record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed, and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the Municipal Development Code are final actions unless an appeal is filed and fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant actions of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda, or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. Going on to item number 4, if we could have the staff report, please.
Good evening. So item number 4 is conditional use permit 18-09. The proposed project is to renovate an existing two-story commercial building with a existing basement for a place of public assembly. It would be for religious retreats on a property located on an acre of .51 acres. The project site is located at 814 North Arrowhead Avenue within the commercial office zone. The proposed project proponent is a nonprofit organization that they will provide specific study sessions and classrooms for faith formation and growth. On the first floor, that's where they're going to have the overnight stay for the weekends, for their religious retreats for up to 50 active members. They're going to be dividing the members between men and women of 18 years and above. The renovation will include restrooms with new showers for the men and the women, and a kitchen facility and a dining room facility. The second floor will comprise their administrative office, and that will be used during the weekdays. And then the basement will be for the gathering spaces for their study sessions, as well as the classes that they will offer for those who are attending the retreats. This is the location of the proposed existing building. It's in a commercial office space, and it's surrounded by a residential neighborhood, as well as other similar types of office types of uses. Here's an aerial map of the existing neighborhood and the surrounding properties. This is the existing site as it is at this moment in time from North Arrowhead Avenue. Here's a site plan of the proposed building and what it encompasses. They're going to be redoing some of the parking area to accommodate possible addition parking, but they're going to have shuttle buses coming in and dropping off the members for the weekend stay. This is the layout for the first floor. You're going to have the bedroom settings on this side, and then you're going to have the kitchen facilities with dining room setting on this area. This is the second floor, and this is going to be their main conference room, and then they're going to have other adjacent office areas around it. This is the existing basement, and this is where they're going to be proposing to have the classroom and study sessions, and the main gathering is going to be here in this square footage. The recommendation by staff is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 20-001, finding the project categorically exempt, and approving the conditional use permit 18-9 based on findings of fact, and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. We do have the applicant here, so if you have any additional questions regarding the operation itself, they would be able to answer those questions for you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, this time I'll open public hearing for item number 4. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
I have some questions.
Yes, Commissioner Sim.
Elizabeth, this site is, the closest street, Main Street is 9th Street? What is there now? Isn't that a church already there, or what is there?
They currently shouldn't be operating the religious retreats facility. I believe they did purchase the property, and their intent was to have an office area, but they also wanted to have this public assembly, which would require the conditional use permit.
So the there's no church there, so what's just on your graphic, that's all there is there?
Yes, that's all there is.
Okay. I think we had
I'm
requested
sorry.
the last time it was on the agenda for the applicant, because I think we had some questions, and the
Yes.
applicant wasn't available the last time, so if the applicant is here,
Yes. Oh, if you want to, over there, yes.
If I could have you state your name and address for the tape record?
My name is Enrique Guzman. You need me to spell it?
No, and the address.
The address of the project? My
Your
address.
personal address.
My personal address, 2317 Bobby Lane in Santa Ana, California, 92706.
could you tell us a little bit about Jóvenes para Cristo, what church they are affiliated, what is the group?
We're actually a Catholic movement, and we have been approved by all of the bishops through all the counties and states as well. We also have a few other states, that we practice in Catholicism, and based on our teachings in our retreat centers, we've been able to help a lot of youths, to come out of drugs. We've been able to help people that's a little confused with their faith. We've been able to help people that's been in jail and prisons, through our faith and through our system that we developed with the help of the bishops. And we've been able to help out society and, a lot of the citizens as well to improve their, lifestyles as well.
What is your title?
My title, I'm just a spokesman for now for Jóvenes para Cristo.
Okay, so you gave an address in Santa Ana. Do you have a church here already in San Bernardino or an office here in
No.
San Bernardino?
No.
No.
This is the only place that we have as a Jóvenes para Cristo.
Okay, so the church or your organization has a desire to help youth in San Bernardino.
Correct.
Is this facility going to be co-ed or just boys?
No, it's going to be boys and girls, yes.
Are
But
they,
they're naturally not going to be under 18. We only work with 18 and over youth, yes.
and how is a young person to be referred to your organization? That is going to be referred by other agencies?
What we normally do is we advertise our retreats on parishes, on all of our parishes from the county. And each parish, the priests, they allow us to advertise it, and we normally do it. We're already doing the retreats on different places. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those addresses, but we do rent, some of those places that already have the retreat centers as well.
So your organization has experience doing this already?
Over 30 years, yes.
Okay. When do you expect to, if approved, to begin building or renovating with a start date to accept young people?
Honestly, we've been waiting for over going to 3 years now, so as soon as you guys allow us, we're going to start up the project, and within probably a year or so, we're going to, because that's what we're estimating on how long would it take for the renovation of the building, and then we'll just begin right away.
And what would the staffing be like? What was the capacity? How many young people? I don't recall.
Well,
Say.
the staffing is not, they're only going to be there during the day, during the weekend, but they're not staying there because we don't have enough room based on the requirements on the per the site. So our staff is probably going to be at least 5-10 people staying over to
For the weekend?
For the weekends only, yes, and that's the only weekends. Yeah, during the week, we're only going to be having a few meetings, but only not later than 9 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, through the chair. Mr. Guzman, if I understand you correctly, these are going to be young adults over 18. They are going to be young adults that need rehab?
No, it's not a rehab. Well, did you
Or
finish?
need rehab or some kind of help? And what kind of security do you have, or is there a curfew? Do they stay inside the building?
We will be hiring a monitoring company, and as well, we'll be hiring a security guard on site at the time that we're always there, present.
Are they allowed to go in and out of the building?
The staff, or I'm sorry.
Or the party spending the night?
Yes, they are allowed. They're basically, there's no contracts or anything, but yes, they are allowed to go in and out. We always recommend them to have the experience, 100%, which trying to stay on site so that they don't have to leave, at least for the weekend, which is Friday and Saturday, and then they'll be picked up again. They'll be dropped off on a Friday by bus, and then they'll be picking them up again on Sunday, right around midday, and they'll be transferred to their parishes, and that's what the be reunited with their families.
Thank you.
I think, I just want to follow up on his question. I think it's good, and now I feel like I need clarification. Is it a religious retreat for young people 18 and over from, you said referrals would be from the different churches that you are, only for the purpose of enhancing their religious commitment per your church? Or is this a facility where maybe young people who have lost their way? That's why I asked the question, are they going to be referred by probation, others? And then that's where it borders on whether it's going to be somewhat a rehab facility. Can
Yeah.
you clarify between those two?
It's not a rehab, no. It's basically, we're just using the gospel and, we're just, that's why.
So
that's
just
what-
to enhance this young people's experience, religious experience and so forth?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why we're also working with the state right now to change our name, because most people get confused when we say Jóvenes para Cristo. They think that only applies to young adults for Christ, But that's what we're trying to work on, young adults. That's what we're trying to get our names correctly. So, because it could be anybody from, 18 and over, at 60, 70.
Who is a
and-
member from your
Correct.
various churches?
Mhm.
That's where the security question is important, because if they are just young people from the different churches there to enhance their religious experience, then you have a need for security, about
Correct.
them walking out. If they were maybe young people who had lost their way, then it becomes a public safety issue if they're allowed to leave for that surrounding neighborhood.
Well, we have
That's why
staff.
the distinction.
Well, we'll have staff, but we'll also be hiring a monitoring company of security services as well.
Yes.
Excuse me, so they can come and go as they please?
No, because we'll be we'll be picking up from their parishes. Let's just say parents from up north from this county. They I just can't think about any other names right now, but they'll be picking up there and they'll be dropped off and to this address. But if they decide to leave, we'll have one of our staff to take them back to the parish where it was picked up and drop off there as well. Mhm.
But are they confined totally to this property while they're there?
Yes.
They are.
Mhm.
Do you plan on having some sort of medical people on staff?
Yes.
Thank you.
Quick question. What can a person expect from this retreat? For example, on a typical weekend retreat, what's going on that agenda? What's on the menu? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I could tell based on my experience, but
Looking for the experience for this particular proposal.
oh, okay. We do have a schematic that we follow from step 1 through till the end. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, but I could give you guys a copy if you like. But it is we start talking first of all with just talks about who is God. That's like the number one question that we're always asked. What is God to you? And based on that, people start, getting emotional, but they also start experiencing all the things that God is really meant to them, and they just start opening up themselves, and we start just, following up our. We have different speeds there, and that's how we basically get them to start working on themselves. By the end of the first day, they have already commit to finish the 3-day weekend, because they have already experienced the love of God.
If I may follow up on that. So if day 1 I don't like it, can I go home?
Yes.
So how do I do that?
You just let one of the staff, and the staff person will take you back to the parish where you were picked up.
So I don't know if this is, go ahead. If this is a question for, I just always just kind of jump the gun, I'm sorry. If for Elizabeth or for you, in terms of security, because if you're only going to be using it on the weekends, what happens all week long, Monday through Thursday, let's say, or Monday through Friday? Is there someone on site? Is there security that we're requiring cameras or anything like that?
We do have cameras, but, you know, if it's part of the conditions, we could definitely have, you know, someone outside if it's required. But
Well,
we
we-
don't have it at this point because we're not practicing yet.
Okay, so
Mhm.
so you don't plan to have someone on site during Monday through Thursday checking the facility?
No.
Okay.
So, security is a concern, obviously, as you hear, Mr. Guzman. So even though you folks are there on site Friday to Sunday,
Mhm.
and then Monday to Thursday, that's a concern. And this, out of my curiosity, are the folks going to spend the night in this building? They're going to sleep in this building?
Yes.
Oh, and, okay. May I see the floor plan again?
Yes, I
Yes,
can
thank you.
do that. And they're going to be there on the weekends, Friday through Saturday, and then leave on Sunday. Let me just go forward.
And if I may add to that, we
This
have
is the
already,
first plan.
we have already done walkthroughs with both the building official
Yes.
and the fire department. That's how we arrived at some of the conditions of approval. The applicant indicated a time frame to improve the building. Those are results of those requirements from building safety and fire. So the expectation is that there is going to be overnight stay, and so there has to be accommodations from a health and safety standpoint
Oh,
to
that's
to provide for that. Along with that, if I may, we do have a condition of approval that's in our resolution that states that the facility shall only be occupied for public assembly of religious retreats and shall not be used for other community outreach services to include shelter for homeless individuals as in emergency shelters, drop-in centers, transitional housing, temporary or permanent supportive housing, or a center for alcohol or drug rehabilitation. So it states in there that it's it limits the use of those buildings. And just kind of from another standpoint, in terms of the operational facility, I've actually served as a facilitator to some parishes in this capacity. You know, the likelihood of someone leaving in and out is very, very little, other than their parents might kill them when they show up at the house, back at the house. But anyway, it's intended to be a spiritual experience, regathering, regroup, and focused, and it's also kind of where the group is teaching each other, kind of a thing, as well. It's not just sit down lecture kind of a thing. It's open sharing, those kinds of things. And so is my understanding that in speaking with the applicants through this process, and it has been quite a while, that's what that's what their intended use was. And so that it's taken a time to kind of get everybody envisioning the same picture of what they're trying to operate, so that then we could process this, get the appropriate agencies involved, make sure that we have the proper improvements in place, and make sure that we have the proper conditions of approval set forth, so that we know what we're approving should the Planning Commission be inclined to do so. Thank you.
So if I'm looking at correctly from here, so the floor, the beds, or is that like sort of?
Yeah, so the beds are right here. They're going to be, so these are the bedrooms. This is one of the bedrooms, and then this is the secondary bedroom, and they're going to be bunk beds. And then
Go ahead, sorry.
sorry. And then we have the restroom and shower facilities, and it's divided by men and women. So they're not going to have share bedrooms at all. They're going to be separated. And then there is going to be a kitchen facility, so that way they don't leave the facility during that time frame, and they're able to just have dining here, not only for the people who are going to be participating, but also for those who are going to be providing the classrooms and the study sessions.
So if I can clarify, so separate restroom and bedrooms.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Elizabeth, Mr. Guzman, thank you for bringing this project up to us. As you can tell, a lot of the commissioners were worried about security. Just emphasizing maybe something we can add to the resolution is just having security cameras maybe on site so nothing is hurt or damaged and everything during the week while your staff isn't there. So that way it's protection for your building and just insurance.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of worry about what's being brought into the neighborhood, so the rehabilitation, the homelessness, kind of that kind of thing. But Oliver's clarification, I think, cleared that away. The overnight stay, obviously, it's a worrying thing. But you mentioned, Elizabeth, that there will be maybe additional parking. Will there be repairs done to the site itself, like extra lighting, maybe another painting, a sign, maybe kind of advertising this for other parishioners and everything to come in and partake into this? Is there anything going to be added to that?
So they are going to be doing some parking improvements in terms of striping, because right now it's been vacant for a very long time. So they have to do the restriping to be able to accommodate additional parking they may need for their staff. They're also going to be providing an additional refuse enclosure because currently the one they have doesn't meet the current standards. So they're going to be providing that as well. And then in terms of lighting, I believe they currently have lighting, but if we need to probably add more or maybe enhance the lighting, we could probably put a condition to ask for a specific type of lighting that may be like LED lighting that provides more brighter, but at the same time doesn't go onto the neighbor and cause a problem with the neighbor as well. It just kind of stays on site. We can provide a condition if, okay.
All right.
We can add that additional condition maybe to
If we
have
can add
better
that.
lighting on site.
That'd be wonderful, yeah. I'm just worried about kind of also trying to make it transition into the neighborhood, nicely. It has been vacant for quite a while, so it is a little under the weather. So we definitely want to revitalize that. So lighting, the repainting, that'd be perfect. I think that's it for my part. Any other questions?
Through the chair, I have a question of staff. I would imagine the neighborhood was notified of the use for this property?
Yes,
And-
we had to renotice
Okay.
because of the cancellation of last month's meeting, so yes, we
No
sent
responses?
we didn't get a response
Okay,
back,
thank
no.
you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner?
In regards to that, what is the surrounding neighborhood like?
It's there's a lot of single-family development, residential development. We do have some commercial office areas. I didn't really walk through the whole neighborhood, but what I did walk through, there is a lot of just pretty much single-family development. There's some multifamily, and then there's some office areas to the south of that and to the east of that. So it is pretty community-based neighborhood.
So I'm assuming the crime rate is relatively low in that area?
I am not exactly familiar with the crime rate. Unfortunately, I didn't pull the statistics, but I can definitely look that information up and then maybe follow up with yourself through Stephanie and give you that information. I can probably verify with the police department in terms of what their typical crime statistics are, if you would like that, if that would.
That'd be, it's a thought, yes.
Okay. I
Thank
can
you.
definitely do that, provide that information to you at a later time. Unfortunately, I didn't pull that information for the project.
Terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
I do recall several years back, because I've been on the Planning Commission, this is, 9 years.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. And the Planning Department gave us a listing because there was a request from the commission about rehab houses, parole houses, and so forth. And it came out that there was a large number on Arrowhead right around that area. So I know that when you send out notices, I wonder how many were people who are living there who actually own the homes, or how many of those were, I guess the question is are there still a lot of houses there located in that area of Arrowhead that are rehab homes, state parole houses, and so forth?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment. I know we do get a lot of inquiries on D Street in terms of some of the properties that are currently there. Within this vicinity, unfortunately, I'm not able to recall off the top of my head if that's still something that is predominant in that area. We can definitely...
If I
try
may,
to-
we have been in discussions with the police department. Actually, those conversations started about 3 years ago. Since then, because kind of these treatment centers, you know, if you will,
They're houses where
they're in a
residents are
house,
trying to
and
get,
so
you know.
you know, because of either the activity or kind of the spin-off, you know, that comes from those, they've actually been limiting those. And so whenever someone wants to open a facility similar to that, we route it to the police department. They get back to us and they tell us whether or not they're too close to someone else or there's too much of a concentration and things. So in the 5 years that I've been here, there really have not been any that come to mind, new ones. I mean, and in those cases where if they were inclined to be persistent to move forward, we have required them to say, well, okay, you need to come in, you have to file a conditional use permit application, and no one has in that time. And so we are mindful, and as you know, we have a moratorium on social uses now that we're working on, and we'll bring forward here within the next month or so.
Oliver, I've been in this group longer than you've been. No.
Hard to imagine,
Well,
huh?
it's...
But my hair's getting more gray than yours.
No, I appreciate the comment knowing that, because we don't always know about those things. When
Yeah.
that list first came out, they were heavily concentrated on D and Arrowhead. And those are older parts, older neighborhoods with older homes. You don't always have new families buying those homes and so forth. So the owners of the property were just very easily, you know, opening rehab, parole, because that was what the industry was locating. And so that's good to hear that the city is looking so that some neighborhoods are not over-concentrated with those types of homes and so forth. Not that that has something to do with what you described that the Jóvenes para Cristo
No,
would
actually,
be.
thanks
but
for
it's a-
sharing, because
it's a
that gives
side-
me something else
We're
to think about.
concerned about neighborhoods that are over-concentrated with social service type.
Correct.
All right. If no one else wishing to speak on this item, I will close public hearing.
Madam Chair, I would just ask the applicant to on the record agree to all the additional conditions like the security cameras, the painting, the, what was the third one?
Lighting.
The lighting. Yeah,
Yes.
just to have it on the record.
Yes. Mr.
Yes.
Guzman, if I could have that. All right.
Yes, I totally agree with it.
Okay.
We're in the best interest to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So then we've closed public hearing. I will entertain a motion for item number 4. Do I have a motion? Oh, you can speak in.
My motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5, if we could have the staff report.
Evening, Commissioners. Item number 5 involves conditional use permit 1919. It's for the property located at 1611 Northeast Street. It's within the commercial general zone. Currently, it's the site of the existing 8-Ball Dairy. What they're proposing is to upgrade their existing Type 20 license, which is beer and wine only. They'd like to upgrade that to a Type 21, which is general off sale, which includes beer, wine, and distilled spirits. I'll show you the location map. So I'm identifying where the site is located. The East Street is general commercial along north and south. To the west of the property are single-family homes. Across the street there's commercial, and then there's residential behind it. If you look at and I'll refer back to this a little bit later, but we're looking at proximity to sensitive uses as well for this, as we do for all alcohol-related uses. This is another aerial map showing the site location, and if you look to the north, which would be the upper left-hand side of the screen, We would have the Vineyard Christian Fellowship, which is approximately 250 feet away. The First Church of Christ, which is approximately 375 feet away. And San Bernardino High School, which is 450 feet away. I mention those because those have become critical items as we were reevaluating this proposal. This is a photo of the site. So to the right of the slide, or the east, is the existing 8-ball dairy. So this is looking north. This is looking south, where the subject site is on the left-hand side of the street. And this is a shot of the store itself. There are a couple of factors on this. The property is located within Census Tract 54. There are currently 13 ABC licenses combined on-site and off-sites, and the ABC standards allow for 19 total licenses in that area, so there's an overage there. We also have the crime rate. We route, as with all ABC licenses, we route these to the police department. They come back with their statistics. Recognizing that within the entire city there are 151 reporting districts. Through that, they've reported that there's an average of 91 crimes in each district. And so when they evaluate each site or property, they do a comparison of what the crime rate is in that particular reporting area as it relates to the rest of the city. In this particular area or district, there were 204 crimes reported, which is 224% above the 91 of the average. Along with that, when the application was filed, the ABC does route it to the police department as well. There was correspondence from the police department that they filed with ABC back in January of 2020, opposing the application. In February of 25th of this year, ABC responded acknowledging that item had been received, and they were waiting for further determination from us as to whether or not what the city's position was, or the Planning Commission's, on this application. The other thing that, as I showed you in the earlier slides, our code does require a 500-foot separation from sensitive uses, those being parks, schools, churches, and such. And as I indicated, there are those three uses that are within the 500-foot threshold. The city's general policies, it does talk about keeping the area safe and such, the goals and objectives, reducing crime, ensuring safe neighborhoods. In our report, we indicated that we felt that this project does not go along with that goal or intent from the City Council. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the city's police department has expressed their opposition of this application. With those factors in mind, and I'd be glad to elaborate on any questions that you may have on the report or some information on the site. But with that, our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt 2020-002, denying conditional use permit 1919 based on the findings that we included. If you take note, one of the resolutions that I left in front of you before the meeting was a revised resolution. What I did was I just kind of reiterated in the what's opposite of affirmative? Negative on the resolutions. If you look on the findings, I have highlighted in red the new verbiage that goes in there, and so basically that's been provided for you as well. Again, I'd be glad to answer any questions. The applicant is here if you have any questions of him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver. At this time, I'm going to open public hearing for item number 5. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? If we could have the applicant come up. If I could have you state your name and address for the record.
Viram Pitia, 7647 Vista Alegre, Highland, California, 92346.
All right. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any comments? knowing that there's a school so close and already having the ABC 20 license, can you give us the reason why the Type 21 was introduced, or why you thought that that would be a good idea?
Well, as you know, everybody looking for small alcohol, not that they don't want to go to a supermarket, buy a big portion, so they look for the small liquor stores.
Okay. And how long has your establishment been there?
That's been, I'm not sure exactly, but like maybe more than 30 years.
30 years.
And I'm also doing business more than 35 years.
Okay. Was the Type 20 license, Oliver, grandfathered from previous owner? Or?
Yes, that is correct. It's a one of your deemed approved permit there.
Okay.
So there's not a conditional use permit for the existing license, if that's your question.
Okay. Unfortunately, it looks like there's just, the police are saying, there's an oversaturation. We do have a letter from them saying that, they're recommending a denial. The school being so close as well, I don't think it's quite a good fit for the location. I know there's other areas that may benefit from something like that, but I just wanted to at least say in person to you that it doesn't seem like the right location or time.
Well, maybe principal making a mistake. They need to search the record, what was 5 years ago and what is now. There's a lot of differences. We've been there. There's less crime, less phone call or police. So it's not the same thing just operating other person.
Okay, all right. Is there any other comments wanted to be said on this item? If not, then thank you. I will actually close public hearing for item number 5 at this point. Thank you. I will entertain a motion for this item.
I would like to make a motion that we deny conditional use permit 19-19 based on the finding and facts.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion passes.
If I may, as a follow-up to that, there is a 15-day appeal period. If you would like to file that for the City Council consideration, if you'd like so, you can come back to our office during regular business days prior to 15 days to file that application with us.
All right. Moving on to item number 6, if we could have that staff report.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 6 is a request for extension of time 19-12. It's for tentative track map 16794. This is the fourth requested extension of time for this particular project. The proposal involves, it's 18.45 acres. They're looking to build, or propose to build 43 single-family residential lots, and there is a debris basin. The property is located on the west side of North Palm Avenue, north of Vertimont Drive, and it's within the residential low zone. First exhibit shows a location map. Again, the property is completely surrounded by the residential low zoning designation. This is the aerial of the site, which, as you can see, is vacant, and the existing development around it is single-family residential to the residential low standards. This is an exhibit of the tentative map that was approved. And with this, our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-004, finding the categorical exemption and approving extension of time 1912 for the tentative map, which is 16794, based on the recommended conditions of approval. I will state that the conditions of approval are as those that have been carried on since inception.
Thank you, Oliver.
And the applicant is here as well.
Wonderful. At this point, I will open public hearing for item number 6. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? I do have Hank Mitchell.
Good evening. Hank Mitchell, Vertimont, California. This project in particular is a second developer. The first developer had a couple extensions prior to that because it was set up during the Chaz Kelly period. That would have to be 10 years ago. But my comment is, and by the way, I'd like to talk to number 8 as well. Mr. Robles here is my favorite developer in the area. He's done more to enhance Vermont than any developer. However, most of the developers are still in extension. But extensions is my question, because about 2 years ago, James Funk came here to present a project for Watson. And he was listening to a project that was being extended for probably the 12th time. And he asked the council, the chamber here, why so many extensions? Because when he was a developer or head of the department, Aaron was here at the time, he was only allowed 3 extensions for each project. Now, the problem with these projects being extended, that they were approved under the conditions of our infrastructure at that time. These projects now are 13 years down the road, and our infrastructure is 13 years more failed. And these projects were approved during, like, around 2007 at the behest of Chaz Kelly and the council to reduce their rates 50%. So they're extending on 50% reduced fees, and that money's all gone. And we don't have any money in the city for infrastructure. And these projects are being extended, and our infrastructure is getting worse and worse. And that's why I've come down here before to talk about infrastructure. I don't know how far you can extend these, and it's costing the city for staff to come down here and approve these extensions, and Vermont is wearing out. So, not sure where I was going to go with this. I'm not stopping the project. I welcome Felix. He doesn't believe I think he's my favorite, but he is. So, but I'm not sure how you guys can keep approving what the city set up years ago is 3 extensions. Now we're 13, 14 extensions down the road. And the last time when James Funk asked the question, he was given an answer that the state allows 5 and the city allows 3. That's 8. And Commissioner Wolpert, last commission meeting, he asked the question, I'm behind, I'm out at the screen of the TV. Go, go, keep pushing it. Why? I'd like to know why the city just keeps allowing these extensions, except that it keeps the developer in the area, one especially. But I don't understand how how it works. And I guess I have to go to city clerk, freedom of information, all that to ask. But it's just a mystery to us out there. That's it. And welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
If I may respond to some of the comments, with regard to the extensions, the state legislature, as outlined in your report, as we've discussed several times, over the course of the years, and actually back since 2009, they passed legislation to automatically extend these maps without any city action. Sometimes it's been 1 year, sometimes it's been 2 years. In our staff report, I outlined the various times that they approved those automatic extensions. Along the way, as we've discussed in the past, the state legislature has also amended the California Subdivision Map Act, where before you were allowed up to 3 extensions for your maps. They changed that to 6. And so our code, so we need to be compliant with state law. So that's why in this particular case, where we're saying this is the 4th extension, without saying it too loud, they're allowed, I should say, not entitled to. They could apply up to 6 extensions for that. There was a comment that was made regarding the fees that would be paid for these subdivisions. Again, there are no development agreements that have locked in development fees for this project or any of those subdivisions up there. And so for them, the next step would be to, or part of the next steps, I should say, would be to prepare and file their final map, which goes to the city council for action on that, and then record that. Before they do that, the city has to review, process, and approve their off-site improvement plans, street improvements, infrastructure, and all those kinds of things. And so once they record the map, we have all the pieces in place, and then now the next step before they build, then there's the impact fees, and so those fees are paid to today's standard. Whatever the fee schedule says today, that's what they pay. And obviously whatever the cost of those off-site improvements are, they will have to pay what today's costs are for those. And so there's nothing that was locked in back from 2009 or those kinds of things. And so when they build, you pay today's price. That's the process for that. I'd be glad to answer any other questions or provide any clarification if need be. I just wanted to chime in on that. Sure.
So when these projects were originally approved, proposed and approved, they were offered a reduced development fee?
No, they were not.
Okay. Yeah.
If they were, it would be in the resolution.
Yeah, I do recall a time when the council was doing that for the development up there, but Hank brings up a good point. I totally forgot that they were doing
They
that.
may have been for those that went forward,
Yeah,
but
but that doesn't carry forward with these extensions.
if it's not in the resolution, then it doesn't exist.
Because I agree, the infrastructure up there is taking a beating.
I think we all would.
And we really need to give that some consideration in this whole process. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
What is holding this up? I mean, they've got the maps, they've got it all set. What is holding it back? Is it
And
something
that's why we have asked the applicants to.
I'd
gladly come up and answer some of those questions for you. It would be my pleasure.
All right, come on up. If I could have you state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. My name is Eric Cernich. My address is 2855 Pacific Coast Highway, Suite 227, Corona Del Mar. So, you want to know why I'm here for another extension? Well, my maps and plans have been lost multiple times by the city. The city has moved. I'm in my 7th plan check at the water department, over almost 4 years in plan check over there. I submitted my improvement plans on May 1st of 2017, and I continue to go back on plan checks. So, I don't know, you tell me. I'm trying to move this thing forward. I've never had a project take so long, starting out with a tentative map. I've owned this property for almost 5 years. And by the way, I'd love to have 50% off my fees, because I can barely make this project work right now. So I'd like to dig through that and see that's the case. I also had to pay $5,000 to get this meeting tonight. So we're not getting a free ride.
So what do we do to get over this?
Seriously, you have to ask that question? I need staff to turn my stuff around.
So you're putting the blame back onto staff?
I can go through emails where I'm not answered for months. I've made phone calls and not answered for months. The good thing about it is I think we're finally to that point. I've been told many times by past head planners that we're open for business, and that has never been the case. In fact, I've been so frustrated with this project, I filed for this extension back in November. My map expired in December. I'm basically 3 months without a map just to get a hearing. I've been sending the mayor emails. I finally had a meeting with the mayor a couple of weeks ago to where he said, I will get on this. This has been a ridiculous project, and it's taken way too long, and it's costed me way too much money, and I'm way over budget. So, there it is.
What type of housing, like square footage-wise and lot size?
I don't know yet.
Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah,
So
I haven't
you're not
gone in for
there
by
yet.
development yet.
Do you have something in mind as far as
Yeah, we're talking probably houses similar to the neighborhood.
price range of?
Whatever we can get. That's not a great market up there, so it's really hard to get a good price up there, considering all the amount of extensions and other fees that we paid on this project. And by the way, the city has probably one of the highest fees for development, impact fees, that I've been involved with. We're going to have to pay almost $13,000 for our water hookup. If you live up in the area, I can tell you, you didn't pay $13,000. Your house didn't pay that for the water hookup. So by me paying it, you get a $13,000 equity for your house. So you should thank the developers for being up there doing new projects.
To staff or Oliver, is there some way that, is there some mediating power that we've got to put this together? Something that we rather than blaming each other and what have you, is there something, a way of roundtable sitting down that we have in place or not, or?
Frankly, some of the comments don't warrant a response, but I think that if there are matters as it relates to the processing of the permits, we can certainly sit down with whoever and get those processed.
So one of the other things, sorry to interrupt, my civil engineer also died during this project. Another thing, too, is that originally we were going through a landscape maintenance and lighting district. That took us almost 6 months to get that approved. Once we got that approved, we never got our final improvements from that, from Public Works, and then we got switched on our last extension to now go to a CFD instead of the LLMD. I was also asked by the city to try to acquire some rights for the water department from a property that I didn't own. There's just been so many things thrown at me. It hasn't been right. So
we don't have there's not a mediator that we can both sides can sit down to and hash it out.
I'm available at any time, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Through the chair, I understand what you're saying. I'm a longtime member of our Chamber of Commerce, and we have brought up the development fees for many years. We have brought up the length of time projects go through our building department. We've had a large turnover of help here. Our Chamber of Commerce has always wanted to be some sort of an ombudsman to try and help people. And I hate to keep seeing these extensions, but if I'm hearing that the extensions are due to the fact that things aren't flowing through our city hall, that really bothers me. And I think that if we could focus in on one or two of these projects, if we had somebody within our staff that can pick up the ball and roll with this so that we don't have to give extensions. I know it's costing this gentleman a lot of money. And that's going to add to the cost of those homes up there. So if we could do something, it would be greatly appreciated by the community, I'm sure. And I'm sure you'd appreciate it.
I appreciate being able to reach out to the chamber for some help. That would be nice. I'll tell you, I really did. I was so frustrated because I didn't even hear back anything on my map extension when it was going to be heard. I didn't hear anything back for a couple of months. And I had been reaching out to the mayor, and frankly, I was happy that the mayor actually got a hold of me and we actually sat down and discussed it. So somebody said crickets. It's been a lot of crickets. I mean, I've got some email chains that I'm embarrassed it's taken so long to get stuff to happen. But if somebody can help, I mean, the market's been good. Who knows with this coronavirus, what's happening? I mean, I'm reading something now that says we're going to be in permanent recession. So I don't know. I'm just hoping I can make $1 or $2, not lose my ass up there now because it's taken so long.
I agree.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Sir?
This, separate from what you're talking about, we got another few other similar, I think, items on our agenda. We're in a crux, I think, right now. I mean, we've got Sacramento and a governor that's slamming everybody to build. And so if we don't allow this, we could have put ourselves in a position that wouldn't be very good. I don't know. It's we're in a crux on this as to yes or what do we do? Good. Or what I'm trying to say is that whatever we do could come back and bite us. That would really be the crux of it. So I think what Commissioner Quayle said, I think we can figure out something to sit down on. I mean, something can always be solved with enough people who really care about putting it together.
I think one of the other things, too, is, and I know that Mr. Robles is going to be behind me for his extension. He could probably speak to this better than myself, but we've been going around and around with the water district to try to service that area up there, and they've been doing nothing but increasing their fees, and we've been trying to get some relief on it. As I mentioned, I think they want $13,000 for a water hookup. Originally, 5 years ago, we were talking about $9,000. I tell you, it's getting to the point to where we're going to lose money when we build those houses up there because it's so damn expensive. I want to know where that resolution is that says 50% on fees, because, boy, I could sure use that right now, or some relief from the water district. But, I mean, I don't even know when, we haven't had a meeting over at the water district to try to solve some of those issues in a while. But, I mean, I'm on my 8th plan check at water department? It's crazy. So, I don't know.
What would you forecast per lot, collectively, per lot, what the fees are, total?
I think we're probably pushing $45,000 a lot in fees, maybe $50,000.
Is that everything combined? I mean,
Well, no, that's just the impact fees. Then there's going to be some other fees. Well, I'll tell you, I was frankly shocked on my street improvement and site plans and off-site plans. My fee for that, for plan check, was almost $50,000. When I go to pull my permits on that, that's going to be $50,000 as well. And the other thing that's crazy is that the plans went out to an outside plan check firm, Wildan, and I was approved by Wildan in, I think it was January of 2018, but then I've been back at the city monkeying around since then, trying to get the plans approved. I thought I was approved 2 years ago on my site plans. So, I mean, it's just crazy. The whole thing with the LLMD and now getting switched over to CFD, I spent 6 months doing that, and I still have some deposits on that, and then that got switched on me last time. I don't know. I know there's been some staff shakeups, and it seems like the people that are working here work their butts off, and sometimes I get called, after hours, so I appreciate that, but I don't know what the problem is.
So you're looking at something over $45,000 per lot? It looks like you're talking about more than that.
Yeah, because I'm looking at just on my site, $100,000 on my site work, just to get the plans approved and to have that approved when that work's done, to have the inspectors out there for that. And that doesn't count my outside consultants and stuff. I think I've got $80,000 a lot in there for my soils engineer to come out and do his inspections and stuff during my grading. So I know the years before this, some of the reasons why we were looking for extensions was hardship because the market wasn't there. I think the other thing that killed us a little bit is I'm not a big corporation like Beazer. Neither is Mr. Robles. They took and cut the prices of their houses over $100,000 a house to move them, and that basically killed the market for us. My lender's scratching his head and goes, "Why the hell would you want to build houses out there? They just dropped their prices $100,000." So, but I mean, I'm pushing through it. I'm not a quitter. I'm trying to get this thing over the goal line.
Thank you.
Through the chair to staff. Oliver, based on the fact that we've had so many extensions on this and other projects, and I know that we approve these extensions at this level, but do these developers get an opportunity to go share this information with our city council? Or does it stop here and the extension stays here and they don't go to the council? Or could they request to talk to the city council?
Well, the application for the extension of time is a planning commission item.
Right.
Unless it's denied by the planning commission, then they can appeal it to the city council.
So
if they wanted to go back and have the map revisited, that would be different. That would be a different process. Frankly, I'm not sure they would want to do that.
Okay. I almost feel as though by denying something like this that gives them an opportunity to take this maybe to the city council, something has to happen. These things need to move, and they need to have the energy behind them within this department to make it happen. Within the city department to push. If the water department's holding it up, then we need this ombudsman or the planners to help push these projects through. My opinion.
If the Planning Commission is inclined to continue this matter, I mean, I would be more than happy to coordinate a meeting with the Water Department, Public Works, and our staff in our department to see what are the outstanding issues that are preventing the recording of the final map, and at that point, the determining factors as to what is preventing the final map from being recorded. One of the factors, and I'm not a builder, but once you record the map, now you start paying taxes and those kinds of things. And so, you know, there's a balance here. And so, as indicated, there has been some dialogue with the Water Department in terms of installing new wells, the water system, all that's up to the various zones up there. That's been going on ongoing dialogue. There's been some agreements that have been drafted and so forth. If you're inclined, I mean, I'd be glad to facilitate that kind of conversation and return back to report if you think that something like that is important in order to make a decision on this requested extension of time.
Yes, I think I'll probably speak on behalf of the entire commission that we do want a mediator. We do need that because normally with extensions of time, I'm quite nitpicky. I'm like, no, let's break ground, let's do this. However, your argument of just the long process and how it can be frustrating. My dad is a contractor. He does build things as well, and it does take time. And that's only for a single home. Just seeing that you're doing 43 in this area, I thought, and the water, I mean, that's always an issue.
So just so I may address that question, if the map was denied, my map would expire, and that would probably send us back to do about another $500,000 worth of work. So that would be disastrous for this project, because then we'd have to go back through the tentative map phase. The good thing is we're very close right now to being able to finalize stuff. I just recently was told by engineering that my map's ready to go to Mylars, which is the next step on getting my site improvement plans approved. But what's happened is my civil engineer has passed away, so now I'm in the process of getting someone to take over his work. He's been on this project for over 5 years. I've got somebody that's doing that, so we need to make some changes to those plans and have those plans signed again so I can go to Mylars. And then after that's approved, we can start working on our CFD formation, which is a brand new requirement instead of going to a landscape lighting and maintenance district, which we already did all the work to have that done. That's a 4-month process. Once that is done, we can do our final map. But to give credit to the mayor, I know he's being beat up right now, in the press for something that may or may not have happened. He came to my rescue a bit, and his chief of staff has contacted me. So I've got a direct contact with the mayor's office and city council, and they seem like we're finally going to break through this logjam. So so we're there. I'm begging to get this thing extended so we can be done with this. I want to get this thing done. One other comment that I have on the extension. So we've been dead in the water for the last 4 months. I'd like to see if my map was extended, that my 12 months would start from today when it's extended. That way, you guys don't have to see me again for an extension. You guys will be seeing some designs here in the next couple of months, so we can approve stuff and get out there and start grading. The one positive thing right now, if my map's approved, I'm able to pull my grading permit and my retaining wall permit, which is about a 4 to 5 month job that I'd probably want to get us started on relatively soon. One of the reasons why we haven't started on that, because I wasn't sure if there was going to be some major changes in my site improvement plans, which is part of the package that's been in for approval since May of 2017. So I'm almost there.
Okay.
And the one thing, too, is I actually have water. Some of the other lots up in that area do not have water. We already have our will serve letters, but we do have to participate in the new fee structure to the 2300 water zone up there.
I have a quick question. Okay. So you said earlier that you submitted for plan check in May 1st, 2017, or May of 2017, right, sir?
I'm sorry?
You submitted for plan check back in May 2017?
That is correct.
And do you currently have the water approved or no?
I just, about 2 weeks ago, submitted my 8th plan check on my water and sewer plans. Originally, the water and sewer plans were approved in-house, and then they were taken off-site to the water department. Maybe it was, but you guys moved. I mean, I've been in the perfect storm. My plans were lost a couple of times. You guys know how it works over here at City Hall and what's happened, during this period of time.
Yeah,
Just one of those weird things.
So you're really close getting that approval?
I believe that I am on the 1-yard line right now.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner.
If we were to go for the extension, can we put conditions on that extension that will promote the whole project? And we're just not a blanket extension, but an extension with caveats to it that can be to help push it along, I guess. Can we do any of that? Or is it just a flat extension?
It's my understanding that you can add conditions, but there has to be a nexus as to why you're granting that extension. And so you can't, as an example, you can't, this is the drastic one, you can't say, well, you have to put the street improvements on this other street, or it has to be something that's directly related to the project itself.
Do we have any of those?
In terms of, I don't have any suggested conditions for that, no.
Well, there actually are some additional conditions each time we come in for an extension that are put back on the maps that are kind of updates to things that are happening out in the industry right now. In fact, there's a couple of items on there. I don't remember specifically what they are, but I'm just going, you're kidding me? Now you're making me do that? I really don't want to do that, but tonight I just want to get my extension and move forward. Who knows what the hell is going to happen with this coronavirus? If anybody's got money in the stock market, I still got to go to a bank and borrow $10 million to build this project. So are we at 2008, 2009 again? I mean, there's people saying that. I hope that's not the case.
Were you grandfathered by any of the applicants you've got, so you are not through a lot of the solar upgrades that are now required, or are you carrying that load as well?
When we come in for our design development, we'll be under the 2020 codes.
Gotcha.
So we're going to have to build a more expensive house than Beazer did down the street.
Gotcha.
I mean, the best thing that could happen for us, for everybody up there, is if we could get some type of relief on the fees, and both the city and the water department, and we can get these things done and have a whole bunch of happy families moving in up there, because when Beazer reduced their prices $100,000, they moved those houses. So there's a certain price that people will pay up there, and I don't know how many people have you guys been up there, but that's beautiful up there, and the sunsets and stuff are amazing, especially when there's snow up there in the mountains. So it's a great neighborhood.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. If there is no further comments on this, I will close public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to extend this. Okay.
Well, I will make a motion to extend this, and I want to tell you I appreciate your input, and I hope we can move this project forward. And Oliver, I hope that the city can find a way to get this thing going. So I'll make a motion to approve this, or whatever it needs to get this project moving forward.
I appreciate that, and I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers for staff tonight.
I second that.
All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. The motion passes. You have the next section. All right. Moving on to item number 7, if we could have the staff report.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 7 is extension of time 1913. It's for tentative track map 16910 and development permit type P 1408. This is the third extension requested by the applicant. The property involves approximately 5 acres, and the proposal is for 43 unit subdivision. It was a PUD, and I'll show you those exhibits later on, but it's a planned unit gated community for that, where they're detached single-family residences. It's located on the northwest corner of West Foothill Boulevard and North Terrace Road within the residential medium zone. This is the location map that shows the zoning around the property. Again, to the west is still residential medium. To the south is suburban residential. This is the aerial of the site. And this is a site plan of the project. And again, it's a gated community where it has 43 homes inside. It's kind of the landscape plan, or kind of an illustration of how it's going to be developed. And our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-011, finding the categorical exemption and approve an extension of time 1913, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The applicant is here. Answer any questions. I'd be glad to answer any questions as well if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. At this point, I will open public hearing for item number 7. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Okay. I do actually have a few questions for the applicant, if I could have you come on up. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. Commissioner Steve Brzezinski, 7111 Indiana Avenue, Riverside.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right. So, is there any foreseeable date and everything for breaking ground, or what is kind of going on in this project?
We do not have, unlike the previous developer, I do not have the same issues. I'm not in 8th plan check. I have not in plan check quite yet. I'm newer into the process than he was. This map was approved more recently than his. Aaron has a little bit of history with this piece. He was my planner originally when we submitted this project in 2008. We did get it approved in 2016 or 2017, I believe. And I want to commend Oliver. He has met with a number of potential development partners that we have had, and we have not been able to attract one. In addition, we have not been able to attract financing for this project yet through the lenders for a number of reasons we don't need to discuss today. Certainly marketing, but my neighborhood is not the same place where his neighborhood is. If I'm able to say, it's not as nice a site, and so I'm having a little more difficulty attracting all the pieces I need to move forward and get submitted and experience the things he experienced with the city.
Okay. It's been a 1-year extension, so it's 2016. And do you think within this year there might be a change in tide that might be able to? Are you going to talk with anyone?
That's a difficult question. It could happen tomorrow. It could not happen, and we could be here next December as well. So
okay.
I just do not know.
All right. Commissioner Wilbert?
What extension is this? Which number?
This is a third.
Third? And he's got 5 total available?
6 total.
6. Okay. If we refused this, you would have, now it sounds like you don't have as much invested in this as the gentleman, or the applicant before.
Well, I don't know how much he has invested. I have over $1 million into this project. So
oh, that's not
I have a massive.
Okay,
I've owned this site since 2006. And like I mentioned, Andrew was my planner back then, and you know what all happened in '08. You know what happened with the city. You know the history. We have struggled with all of those things as well. We did, with Oliver's help, get a map approved, but we do not have an ultimate development right now. We have been trying. Oliver can mention, I mean, probably as recently as 4 months, sat in on meetings with me. And so we are continuing to develop. We would love to see it improved and done. We're not here because we don't want to do it. We're just, things have just not lined up for us to be able to do that quite yet, in which we're requesting the extension of time. If you deny it, I won't have a map. I will have lost probably $500,000, as he mentioned. I don't know that our costs were that much, and all of our civil fees and mapping fees, but we would have to start all over. The city would be out housing units potentially until who knows long. It took me 8 years to get this map, so.
Incredible. Thank you.
Are there any other comments one said on this item? If not, I will close public hearing for this item. Thank you. And I will entertain a motion for item number 7.
I make a motion that we approve the extension for this particular permit.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. The motion passes. All right. Moving on to item number 8. I could have
You guys
a
tired of me yet? Yes, Commissioners. Item number 8 is extension of time 1914. It's for tentative map 17-329. It's for the property located on north of West Myers Road, east and west of North Little League Drive. It's located within the residential estate and residential low zones. This is the 6th request for the extension. The property contains approximately 55 acres, and the proposal is to build 94 single-family residential lots. This is the location map. Again, it's surrounded by the residential low and the residential estate to the lower half of it. As you can see by the aerial, it's virtually vacant surrounding the site. This is an exhibit showing the tentative map as approved. Our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-012, finding the categorical exemption and approving the extension of time 1914 for map number 17-329, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions on that. We do have the applicant here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. All right. So at this point, I will open public hearing for item number 8. Is anyone wishing to speak on this item? I do have actually a few questions. So we're limited to 6 extensions of time, correct?
Yes, so this would be the last one.
This would be the last one?
Yes.
Okay. If the applicant could actually come up.
Be gentle, Felix.
My name is Felix Robles, GFR Homes.
All right. Mr. Robles, this has been in the plan since 2006. We had an expiration date from the first one, 2008. You got a planning extension, and then you have a few state bills that extended for 2 years. Is there anything that's changed that, should really give us a reason to extend it one more time?
Well, as you all know, as the market at that time, we were building 200 homes back in 2006, 2007, and then the market collapsed on us, and we had a loan with IndyMac to start this project. But we needed to get out of our 200 homes that we were building 2 blocks away, about 3 blocks away. But when the market crashed, everything just came to a screeching halt, as you'll know, and then we went through this major recession. So obviously, the state granted us these extension, which was, thank you very much. And of course, you know, I'm on my last extension, and there's reasons why, but I'll get into that. If I just give you a little bit of a history of what we've done, I have about 200 lots up in this area, actually closer to 250 now. So I have a vast interest in this area, but I like San Bernardino, okay? We mentioned Watson's property. I took over Watson's property about 2 years ago, and we came in there and changed. We built 45 out of the 64 homes. Those are the project that was just directly across the street from Cal State San Bernardino. And if you go by there, we're finished, we're gone. We sold out all our product over there. Our homes started in the low 3s, and we ended up selling them in the low 4s. But what we did is we took the floor plan and changed it completely around. We didn't do anything to the exterior, but we took the inside, and we marketed the product was a much better feasible living area. We made it really nice. So we ended up selling those, and the reason I didn't come over here to this project that I've owned forever, and I've got a lot of money into it, was because we had to go through some processes to see if we can get a CFD approved, because that would help us in costs. As Eric said, you know, the cost, yes, it's difficult with the costs and the fact that you can't get a whole lot of money like some of the other cities do for their product. But what we've done is it took us a process to get through the CFD, and with the help of the city, we finally got that passed. We came to another when you know, as you know, these are minimum 10,800 square foot lots. That's an expensive lot to build, because everything is just larger. And just to see if you can understand this, where we took over Watson's project, that was 64 homes on 6 acres. You see the amount of acreage we have just to build 94. I got 56 acres. So when you sit there and run pipe, block wall, all that is very expensive because you don't have the same density. The density is so high up there, it's almost obsolete. So then the state went ahead and passed these ADU units, which allows, you know, you can add on an additional house to your lot, which, because of the affordability, that's another thing we worked with the city all over there. It helped us get that thing approved, or the city approved that. So when that came about, it actually, to me, made sense that we can build a project up there now with 2 on a lot, whereas it can help the city with the affordability. It can help us market that product. And the reason I was thinking about this, I've been thinking about 10 years ago to do something like this up there. But the reason why it makes so much sense for me is because, you know, like I told my kids, you know, I'm 70 years old. I said, you're not going to put me in one of them old folks' home. I wouldn't mind going in this one little place in the back if I'm going to, you know, as I get older, and I can stay there, see my grandkids, that kind of. That's how that all came about. And there is a list of people that want that. I think we're going to put the city on the map with that product. I really do. So to answer your question, I don't know if I have, but that's why it's taken so long. We've had to go through these processes. And now that we're there, I'm ready to go. I'm in the process of now applying for my construction loan. I did get 2 banks that turned me down, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to get the loan. So where I'm at now is, and I have gone to other cities in the meantime building. I mean, I was up in Moreno Valley building homes, Bloomington, Rialto. I'm in Upland building houses, all different areas, still owning this land, but I couldn't come back. Now we're ready to come back. And let me just say this. When we first came to build in San Bernardino, we built a project. This was like 15 years ago, and Aaron remembers me. We started building bigger homes, which created everybody else to build larger and better homes in the city of San Bernardino. We put a lot of nice houses up there, but it forced all the publics to build bigger houses. That's why you see bigger houses in the Verdemont area, because it was really because of us. We started that trend up in Shannon Hills when we built our homes up there. So the product that we're going to bring here is going to be the same thing. It's going to be a nice product. It's going to make the city of San Bernardino proud of what we're doing here. To answer your question about the extension, that's why I need the extension. It's taken that long. Yes, it's taken that long because we had to go through this market change. We had to go ahead and get a few things done to be able to make that area a little bit more affordable. Do I still have issues with costs? Of course, but I think we can work it through. Staff has been good to me, okay, because we've been working through things. It just doesn't happen overnight. I get it, but my stuff's been approved. My stuff's ready to go, so I am ready to go. I just got to get the loan. So I don't know. I really do need that. And if you notice my map has 94 homes, which 74 are 10/8, and then I got 1 acre parcels. I don't know about the 1 acre parcels. That's kind of an obsolete type. People don't build on 1 acres anymore. It's just too big and too costly. But for now, my map's ready to go. I'm trying to get the loan. I will get the loan, and we will start building that. I have to build this year because otherwise my map expires, and then oh man, I'm cooked. I got a real problem here because then I've lost all that money, and I've got a lot of money in this city, San Bernardino. That land was expensive. I'm over $9 million in this project up there, but I believe in it. So yeah, that's why I need the extension. I'm going to build it, and I haven't left San Bernardino, by the way, because I just told you I built Watson stuff. I finished it up. And we are going to build here. So that's where I'm at. And I really don't care what Beazer did, okay? That's Beazer. They did lower their prices, okay? Well, that's because that's Beazer. We're not going to lower our prices. I'm going to get my prices where they should be, and I think that product will sell. I think that product will sell with a line of people just waiting for more of it.
Thank you, Mr. Robles, and thank you for your enthusiasm and your compliments to staff because they do work hard and they are very overworked, I should say, and understaffed, but that's okay. Yes, any other
Through
comments?
the chair, I have a question. So you've changed your plans to include a casitas or another small house on that property?
Yeah, when we built the 22 homes, we introduced a casita at that time on those houses. So we had a separate unit with a separate entry that was attached to the existing product, and you could rent. People were either renting them out or put their kid in there, and it was just a separate little casita. Right. We called it. This isn't going to be a casita. This is going to be a separate house. Okay. Because the state said we could do this, and it'll be a separate house. One ownership. You can't, the lot has to be sold by one person. In other words, one person has to own it. So we can't sell it to two different people. But that's what we have on the drawing board. Our plans are not approved, but we have the concept ready, and it's just a matter of about 2 months. I can have that thing done and submit it to the city.
So when you include that in your plans, then you have to resubmit that, and you have a whole new map, basically, right?
No, the map is the map, okay? The map, by the time we do all the infrastructure, that's going to take 6 months, okay? It's a big project and a lot of land. But my plans, I have my floor plans. I have my elevations. Now it's just a matter of submitting the plans to the city. That'll take me 2 or 3 months. I mean, the city works with us. I can get those plans approved pretty quick. Within 3 months, I think we can get them done. Obviously, I got to go to the Planning Commission. I got to go to the city. I'm forewarning you, that's what I'm going to come up with. But I think it's going to solve all the city's affordable issues, I think. And there's nobody else doing it. There's not a builder out there doing it. They're doing it. They're building. They're adding on those units on the west side, but on existing houses. But there's not a new home builder anywhere other than Lennar. Lennar does a Gen X home where he adds it to the product. So it's almost like a unit that's attached, and he sells those. I mean, he's getting $600,000 for those houses, And these homes that we're going to be building, I'm hoping I'm going to be up there in the high 4s, low 5s, And I'm not going to. I move them slow because I need to move houses. In other words, I'm not going to raise prices $10,000, $20,000. I don't know where the market's going to go. But I feel comfortable with the market. I think we'll be okay. Interest rates are so low, I wish I was building right now. I mean, I should have been building by now. But it took a while. I had to get all these things through. Now I'm ready to go. Now you got to convince the banks to give me the money, you know, which is another issue, but,
Well, thank you. I look forward to seeing the models.
all right, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? If not, I will close public hearing for this item. Oh, yes. Have you been sworn in? Or,
No, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Stephanie.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Do you have a slip?
I do, ma'am.
Thank you.
My name is Christopher Jackson, 3305 Cathedral Court. Just in response to this, to agenda item number 8, I did have a couple questions. You guys may not be able to answer it, but since he's here, and hopefully that's something that maybe he can kind of shine some additional light on. My first question is or was there an environmental impact report completed for the proposed area? And if so, is it available online for the public to see, or is there a printed copy that can be provided? In addition to that, I saw that earlier there was a slide that had a copy of the proposed layout for the build. Is that something that we can obtain as well? Again, if it's printed or online that we can see, that would be great. And then also, was there any concerns about the current wildlife that feed and live in that area? Reason why I'm asking is because despite me being a new resident to that area, I happen to notice that there's actually deer or wildlife that is actually feeding in that proposed area of where he's building. So that's a huge concern because you have obviously there's bear in the area, mountain lion, but deer that are actually coming down and feeding, that's an area that you're going to be taken away from them, and there is a current area because of the recent build that was up there. There's a water runoff area there, which is now gated away, and they were actually going up into that area for water because there's from the rains water runoff that's going into that area or channeled into that area. That's now, to me, I would say that's an impact on the current wildlife that's coming through there. And then just as something for consideration, listening to this gentleman's speech, I happen to notice that, he's had extensions multiple times, but yet he had other projects that took a higher priority prior to this build. In addition to that, based on what he was saying, he sounds like he's not approved for any loans. So what type of investment is there as far as trying to get these houses built for this area? So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Oliver?
Yes, Commissioners, if I may respond to the environmental questions. As with all projects, we do comply with CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. This item was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission on February 22nd of 2006. There was a CEQA document that was prepared, a mitigated negative declaration. In that, it does evaluate all the impacts: traffic, air quality, noise, biological resources, which would analyze the critters and such that are up there. Based on that analysis, it was determined that environmental review was sufficient. In those areas, as you know, the next step would be an environmental impact report. If the thresholds are above a certain level, that triggers an environmental impact report. In that particular case, for this project, it was not triggered, and so the biological surveys, the cultural surveys, and those kinds of things that are completed did not warrant anything. And so yes, to answer the question, yes, it was analyzed when the project was approved.
All right, Commissioner?
Question, Oliver. So this was back in 2006.
That's correct.
Okay, and now it's 2020. So the state mandate that applicant needs to submit new updated drawings or map, anything to reapply for the CEQA?
No, it does not.
Okay.
And if I may, just as a point of reference, the previous two extensions also went through the same process or a similar process.
Okay. And then you said the next step then is EIR. right?
No, not the next step for this project. The next threshold level, if when we do your environmental analysis, we're not talking about this project specifically. I'm just
got
saying
it.
that CEQA has been completed for this project.
Right. Okay. So they don't have the EIR or anything? No,
That's correct.
Nothing, no negative impact, basically?
It was not warranted, correct.
Commissioner Lopez.
This resident did ask for copies, accessing copies, maps, and some other things, I think. Who would he contact? Is this Stephanie?
If you like, yes. If you wouldn't mind putting either your email or your phone number on the slip for us, please. We can gladly get that information to you.
Also, I believe most of the information you can find on the full agenda as well under the Planning Commission. So you can get informed about the environmental determinations and see those plans. So hopefully that'll answer a few of your questions as well of what the process has been and where it's going. Is there any other comments? Yes.
I appreciate you coming to the Planning Commission meeting today regarding this particular project. Thank you for being here and speaking so eloquently about the questions and concerns you had. I especially appreciate the comment for Mr. Alvarez. This is it? This is your last request for an extension, is that right, Oliver? It's for the sick? And so if this is going to move forward, it needs to move forward. And because, as this gentleman says, he's noticed that maybe other projects took precedence, but maybe there were other factors we're not aware of. But we don't care about other places. We just care about San Bernardino and if this project is going to go forward. All right, then. Thank you.
Commissioner?
The other areas that I built was because the marketing was there. As I was trying to explain, there were certain things that we needed to take care of here in order to get approved, be it the CFD, be it, these items that I had to get done. That's why this project wasn't ready yet. It wasn't that I didn't want to build up here. If I didn't want to build up here, I wouldn't have taken Watson's project. What I needed to do is, it's ready now, but I needed to get those ADUs approved, CFDs approved, and that takes time. That's one of the reasons why we weren't here right away. I wish I would have already had started this project because the timing is perfect right now. The rates are perfect for this.
No, I understand that. We're just echoing what you told us, too. You're ready. That's what you told us. You're ready.
And I do understand. I got one more year, and I got to start. Otherwise, all that amount of time and effort that we've done is gone. And as far as the deer goes, yeah, well, I mean, you're up in the hills. There's deer up there. You see them every so often. He's a new resident here, but I've been here 25 years. So, yeah, my nephews all lived up in those houses that I have still own up there. So, yeah, there's animals there, but I still have another 50 acres beyond that into that forest area that I have to set aside for conservation, which that for purposes of land that's we're utilizing to save into perpetuity for this conservation, habitat, so to speak. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I ask a question, Mr. Robles? Yes, the applicant. Yes. And I just like to say that I appreciate you. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I didn't catch your name earlier.
It's Chris.
Chris, thank you. Thank you for speaking up about caring for flora and fauna and in keeping the local wildlife and ecosystem. I mean, we do care about nature. We do like to make a profit as well. It's people, planet, and profit, right? People, planet, profit. I can sympathize with you, Mr. Robles, for wanting to develop this. Now you seem like you're really ready to get this development going. And yes, preserving the habitat is just as important, creating the new development. They're both on the same pendulum. And in your new development, will you be implementing like recreational area for the families living up there, like a little park area for the kids and all that?
No, I mean, it's my understanding that the city doesn't want any more parks. They made me build parks on all my other projects, and every project that we did, we built parks. But they didn't ask us to build parks this time. So, because of the cost of the upkeep, I think.
Any other comments on this item? If not, I will close public hearing. I will entertain a motion for this item.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I deny. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's it. So the motion passes. Okay. Moving on to item number 9. If we could have the staff report,
I'll
Oliver.
take it home. Here we go. Item number 9 is specific plan amendment 1901 and development permit type P 1906. The proposal is to change the specific plan land use zone of the subject site from neighborhood residential to employment in order to allow the development and operation of a truck and trailer storage facility that also contains a 7,000 square foot office and shop building. The property is currently vacant and contains approximately 15 acres and is located at 1066 North Tippecanoe Avenue. Kind of showing the some renderings that were proposed for the project. This would be from street view, Tippecanoe looking at the 7,000 square foot building. This is looking again kind of from across the street of Tippecanoe. And this is the looking inside the site towards the service bays. This is an aerial map of the facility. Again, it's bound on the south and the west by some flood control channels. Which would be on the lower portion of the slide and the left side of the slide. And if you notice, it's vacant to the north, and you got a small single-family residential neighborhood there on Barton Road. The project, back in December of 2016, the City Council adopted the Waterman Baseline Specific Plan that encompassed this area approximately 700 acres, and it designated all of these land use zones in there. Let's see if my little pointer here. So if you look on the exhibit on the right, my shaky little hand here, this is the subject site. And the purple delineates employment zone. Boy, I really am shaking. Don't worry, you don't make me nervous. The site is right here, which is also residential. Is that what happened, Hank? That just kind of gives you an overview of the site. The little bit of history on the specific plan itself. That process took approximately. I think the initial community meetings and such began like in 2010, somewhere in there, where they engaged the community, and the original intent of the specific plan was to address the Waterman Gardens housing project, and then it kind of expanded from there, and it started to analyze some of the surrounding properties and what could be done kind of to coexist in that area. So that's how this project was had evolved. There were a lot of existing uses that were in the area that, frankly, were not really addressed, and which kind of left for later. And let's see, so as an example, this was the underlining zoning before the specific plan was adopted. So again, it was medium residential to the north, and then the site was split by single-family suburban residential, which is single-family, and medium-density residential, which is multifamily. Let's see, did I miss an aerial here? So if you look at the aerial, like I said, there's a flood control channel that's on the along the left side of the western portion of the property. Across the channel there is a large industrial type facility there. There's trucks, and over to further adjacent on the west of that is an impound storage yard. To the south, there's again some industrial uses and some self-storage. And this particular piece, as I recall, when we were looking at sound like Elmer Fudd here, the specific plan was the kind of how do we that this would be a long-range plan kind of a thing, and ultimately what would happen with this. The applicant has owned the property for over 10 years, is my understanding. Unfortunately, was out of the country when the specific plan was being processed, and so he came back when it was like I believe it was like a month later. We were at the workshop over at St. Bernardine's when this was unveiled as approved, and just so happens that Mr. Rosenheim happened to be sitting next to me at the table and started asking me questions about this project. Long story short, what we tried to do is come up with a proposal, kind of as an interim use, if I will. It's currently zoned residential or allows for residential development, single family specifically. The reality is that the residential market is going to take a while, and so we thought of what would be a kind of a quasi-temporary use of a facility, rather than building a large industrial warehouse, rezone it as industrial and put a big, another 400,000 square foot warehouse or such like we see down in Waterman. So what can we do? It's my understanding that he's been in communication with some of the local distribution centers. There are some needs for truck storage, and so we thought if we could take this site, which is vacant, kind of do the improvements with the asphalt and such, put perimeter landscaping, fencing, and what have you, to address the aesthetics from the street view, and then at such a time when the market should turn, the property and this proposed zoning, which would be employment, does allow for multifamily residential. So at some point, should the market turn and he himself be interested, or a potential developer or builder, they could take this site. It'd take very little to clear. Small, it's a 7,000 square foot building, and then they could then accommodate a multifamily residential development, which would, I didn't calculate the number of units, but that's still something that's a possibility. So it does not take away the opportunity for residential development, is I guess what I'm getting at. This is looking at the site from Tippecanoe, so this is looking westward. This is looking across the street. And again, to the right there is the flood control channel. This is looking north on Tippecanoe. So you have multifamily residential that's to the right. And this is looking south on Tippecanoe as you would cross. The subject site is to the right-hand side. That's the lower corner of the site. You have the flood control channel and the bridge over crossing. That's right there at the center of the slide. This is Barton Street, which is on the north side of the site, more on the western end. It's an existing single-family residential neighborhood. This street here is going to be utilized for fire emergency access only. So it's not going to be developed for a future cul-de-sac, through traffic or anything. It's just simply there's going to be gated. It's going to have a Knox box on there, so if there's a fire, and the fire department has to get on site, they can go through that location. And this is looking from the site, looking north to, up Barton Street. This is the site plan, proposed site plan, which shows what Tippecanoe would be on the right-hand side of the slide here. So the building, the office and shop building, is up there at the front end, and the intent is, because of the shape of the lot, kind of the triangular shape, is really, when you're looking on the site from Tippecanoe, it's going to be the semblance of a building up front. There's going to be the parking lot for employees or workers if needed. The landscaping, there's going to be a 20-foot landscape buffer running along Tippecanoe. On the northern part of the slide, where my Boston accent's coming out now, the northern part of the slide at the entrance off of Tippecanoe, this would be the access point for the trucks coming in for dropping off for the parking and drop off of the trailers. And so this street here is intended to be the primary access to control that. There is a secondary access here for the trucks as well, that would be more of those that need to go directly into the service bay or coming out of the service bay back under the street system. But this is essentially the the parking where it could be truck and trailer. There's going to be an 8-foot high block wall that would be along the northern property line. Boy, I really am shaking. Up here, so this would separate the site from the residential property. We do also have a 10-foot landscape. Now, I have a landscape plan on the next slide. This will be a landscaping along this edge here, separating the two. I will also say that we have taken into consideration that we don't know what type of residential development may occur up here, if at all, at what time. There's a thought that if they develop that, there may be a desire to maybe take access off of here. So what we've taken into consideration is that this could be half width of the street, and so then they would, if you were to develop this side, that this would it essentially could serve as a street entrance for the project, not just for this, but also for a residential development should it occur on the northern side. Again, this is the landscape plan. Again, we do have the solid wall, as I mentioned, along the northern side. It'll be a combination of pilasters and wrought iron decorative fencing along here, along with dense landscaping and trees along here, and then also on the southerly property line as well, landscaping and trees. Again, it's to we're requiring that it be dense landscaping here because the idea is that you don't just look straight in and all you see is a sea of asphalt and/or trucks in there. In this corner here, we have the retention basin for our drainage as required by our water quality measures. So that'll be down in this corner. It also does provide some landscaping, not just in the screening, but our standards for retention basins do allow for some minimal landscaping in there, in terms of ground cover and those kinds of things. So at least it drains when need be. Along with this, as I mentioned, there was an environmental impact report that was prepared for the specific plan. It was certified by the City Council back in December 2016. The CEQA evaluation for this, there was an addendum to that EIR that was done, and essentially what that analysis did, and the environmental consultant is here with us, is it took what was originally analyzed for this site as potential for either single-family residential or multifamily residential, and compared that to this truck trailer facility and/or multifamily, and does a comparative analysis. What is going to be the traffic generation? Is there going to be differences, or the threshold's going to be higher as it relates to noise, air quality, those kinds of things. And so at the end of the day, when we did those side-by-side analysis of those two different land uses, it came up that actually it's a lesser impact than what the original environmental impact report had contemplated. So I don't want to say it's a superior project because I don't want to be misleading, but from an environmental standpoint, when you take the land uses and those kinds of things, the impacts are a little bit lower than contemplated by the original specific plan. I will also say that there was part of the, in addition to the environmental analysis and for particular reasons, the environmental component is not included as part of this, but just as an informational item. There was an economic impact analysis that was prepared for this, where it takes the analysis. If we have a current vacant lot, if it were to be developed at some day as a single-family residential neighborhood kind of a thing, what revenues may be generated from that project. Essentially, we give all of our property taxes to the county. It goes towards the fire department. And so aside from the building permit fees and those impact fees, those would be the only ones that we would receive. As a truck and trailer facility, as an industrial use, not only do they will still contribute towards the fire impact fees for that as part of the property taxes, but then they also have the taxes as it relates to their business of operating that industrial facility. The numbers aren't up on the top of my head, but I believe that maybe the applicant may be able to provide that information. We've been working on this application for a while now. I think that our recommendation that the Planning Commission do consider approving this item and forwarding the recommendation to the City Council to approve or adopt the addendum to the previous environmental impact report and to approve the specific plan amendment and development permit for this application. I'd be glad to answer any questions, follow up. I know I said a lot, fast and shaky, but I'm glad to continue that. I do have the applicant is here. I have the architect and my favorite CEQA consultant here in the audience as well, and so if you have any specific questions, there's the A-team that could address those questions. I'd be glad. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
So at this point, I'm going to open public hearing for item number 9. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Commissioner Lopez?
Oliver, you said there was no environmental impact report. By environmental, what do you mean? Do you mean smog and pollution, or do you mean what other?
So how do I put this? So as projects come to you, and we normally have like where we ask you to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, or as an example, the charter school that was recently came to you, and there was an analysis that was done for that. So in this particular case, for the specific plan, it took the approximately 700 acres, and it contemplated what might be developed there, and then in that, based on proposed development, or anticipated development, I should say, because there was no proposal at that time, anticipated development, you can estimate how much traffic is going to be generated if the whole area was going to be reconstructed, redeveloped. Based on that, it would generate certain noise, air quality, and those kinds of things. All that analysis had already been completed as part of this overall project area, the specific plan area. This site, this 15 acres, was included as part of that analysis. So now when we come back, and for this particular project, there was the addendum does a comparative analysis of those two proposals. And so what it did was, back when the environmental impact report was originally approved for and included that 15 acres for this site, there's an analysis of what all those impacts may be for that. So when we did the comparative, now based on a truck yard, it turned out that the impacts were actually lesser.
I guess my question is, the analysis that you are referring, did it include pollution and smog?
Yes, it did.
Because we are, according to this, the entrance would be off of Tippecanoe.
That's correct.
And what is the nearest cross street to this?
Baseline is to the north.
Okay.
Yes.
And did we not approve some time ago something similar that would the trailers are going to be coming right on the corner of Waterman and 9th?
9th, yes.
And 9th, which puts this not too far. And then we also have Norton. We also have, I guess, the new Eastville, or that people were concerned, and the freeway, and so forth. It seems like we're going that way. So I don't know about, the charter school being so close along that corridor, as well as other residential areas. But you're saying that the analysis did cover smog and pollution in addition to all of this. You're talking about semis. I don't know how many are going to be coming and going in this particular site. I know there was a question about that when we approved Waterman and 9th Street.
I know it may be...
And it's not increasing the problem, or because we're already in a smog zone?
It may be hard to believe, but it actually would be worse with the single-family residential development there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when you run the numbers in the analysis, that's how it comes out, and it's based on how many trucks, when they come in, when they go out, and those kinds of things. I mean, so there's a lot of analysis that goes into that. And like I said, I
understand. That you say that there's a lot of analysis, but what I don't understand is, what is the standard? What was the standard, and where did it come? Below the standard or above the standard? In terms of how they measure, is there going to be increased smog and pollution and so forth?
As it relates to smog and air quality, we follow the measures and the regulations of the South Coast Air Quality Management District.
So what is the standard, and where did this analysis come according to that standard? Or you don't have the numbers in front of you?
I don't have the numbers, but I have an expert in the audience that may be, if that's
okay.
Is the expert here?
Is the expert here?
All these years, Kevin, and you finally get to speak.
Are you the expert?
Yeah.
Okay.
You click the button.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Kevin Thomas. I'm a senior environmental manager at Kimley Horn. Been working with staff and the applicant on this project for 6+ months or so, 6 to 9 months. Yeah, so we looked at, as Oliver said, the previously certified final environmental impact report, looked at what it assumed for this site, and as Oliver stated, it may be a little counterintuitive, but because of the intensity and frequency of single-family or multifamily residential, there's actually substantially less daily traffic from this trailer drop storage facility than a single-family development or multifamily development. And we didn't, it wasn't like a back of napkin kind of calculation. Working with city staff, we actually did a full formal traffic impact analysis at TIA. Working with staff, looked at multiple intersections, compared those to the intersections evaluated in the previous EIR. And again, because there's such a substantial drop in daily traffic, there were no additional or even more impacted intersections than what were previously analyzed. In fact, it reduced the traffic impacts. In terms of smog, we use a CalLine model, the computer modeling software recommended by AQMD. We did a CalLine analysis for air quality for greenhouse gas emissions, and again, because of the substantial drop in daily traffic, and because the site it's a relatively low intensity use of a site. Majority of that site is it's going to have parked vehicles on it with a relatively small maintenance shed, as opposed to single family where you'd have activity essentially all the time with homeowners coming in, coming out, lights on, lights off. So it's just a much less intense activity. So the conclusions were across all the topics from the prior ER that there were no new or substantially more severe impacts than what was already accounted for in the certified ER. And when that's the case, the proper environmental document is an addendum to the ER, which we did, which is attached in the staff report, I believe. It's on the city's website. It was included in the notice. So, yeah, hope that helps answer your questions a little bit.
Yes and no. I don't know what you're referring to, intensity, but it just common sense that what wasn't there before would not have been entering or affecting the air quality, and now that we are building more, it would seem. And I guess my question is the same. What was the standard? There must be some numerical, if it stays below this number, then it should be not as big an impact. Did it exceed, or what am I going to see? Haziness, coughing, my eyes burning? I don't know.
If I may, for a little bit of clarification, I'm not maybe misunderstood the question. When the environmental impact report was originally prepared, it did not analyze this 15 acres as a vacant site.
It does not?
It did not. The environmental impact report contemplated that there was going to be single-family residential development. It took the 15 acres, multiplied it by the density, and it said, okay, if there's going to be, I'm going to throw a number out there, I don't know if it's, if there's going to be 200 homes there.
Around that site.
On that site.
On that site.
On that site. If there's going to be 200 homes there, I'm just giving an example, these are the impacts, traffic, air quality, noise, all these things, based on that being developed, not vacant, that there would be homes there. Okay? And so what the addendum does, it says, okay, let's pretend those homes are not going to be there. After all, we're going to put this project in there. What is the difference between having X amount of homes and this truck parking facility? So it's not looking at it as a vacant lot. If that makes sense. So
well, it gives me more information as to the analysis and how it was done. I don't think it has changed my concern, I guess, because there are residents who live not too far from the Waterman and 9th Street. It is a lower income, but there's small spots of residents in older homes, smaller homes. There's an elementary school there. There'll be the charter school that will be going up, the beautiful charter school that was approved. So I'm asking the question because I'm just concerned, especially if we say that an analysis was done, an environmental report, and it didn't show any impact, which is a little hard to.
No, I didn't say any impact. There wouldn't be any impact. I'm saying that it would not be worse.
That it would not be worse. And that's why I was asking for what was the medium, what was the measure, what was the yardstick to indicate. Thank you.
And I'm sorry if I just maybe to clarify and further expand a little bit. So as Oliver said, the standard of environmental review for a project that's coming in after a previous project was already environmentally analyzed. There's a certified final ER already for this. The methodology under CEQA is to compare the impacts of what was assumed in that previous ER to what's being proposed. So that's the standard, and we did that in a roughly 100-page addendum to the previously approved ER. And within that analysis, we did go through quantitative analysis for air quality. Tables 7 and 8 of the addendum have a local significance threshold analysis for local health hazards. So we specifically look at what the current project would result in and compare it to what the previous year assumed, and concluded that the project falls well below the AQMD thresholds. Yeah.
Through the chair. Sir, I have a question. Through the EIR, is water runoff a consideration also, and is that taken into account?
Yes.
With that change of use of that property?
Yeah, so the certified ER looked at the whole range of typical topics, biology, cultural, hydrology, water quality. For the current project, there is a water quality management plan required, WQMP, working through the city staff, that concluded that the site would meet all applicable local standards for water quality, hydrology. There's a detention basin as part of the site that the architect engineer can discuss further. That's part of a main feature for the site, controlling runoff and water quality.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilbur?
From somebody with this 15 acres and looking at the plot plan, can somebody tell us how many houses could be built there? Who's our housing guru? Our housing people?
I could tell you what was assumed in the specific plan and was assumed in our addendum EIR based on the approved zoning in the current zoning in the specific plan, and that was roughly 210 dwelling units. That's what was assumed. Now, someone could come in, particularly with all the new housing laws that were passed, someone probably could come in at higher density. And as Oliver noted, the proposed zoning for this site at Employment would actually allow, in the future, if desired, a multifamily, more intense development.
Unless I've got some fuzzy math, and maybe I do, we got 13 acres. Figure one house or 4 houses per acre. Is that out of sight?
No, there's actually were specific density assumptions in the specific plan. I don't have all of those at my fingertips, but I know when we went through that math, and actually was part of the TIA scoping agreement with city staff, we included a methodology to assume what the current zoning would generate in terms of trips and what the proposed project would generate, and from that came up with roughly 210 units. The actual development intensity is, if you even heard tonight from some of the projects, would depend on a site-specific development proposal. The area north of this is a very large area, zoned residential, that it could accommodate a large number of dwelling units.
200 houses, wow.
If I may, the density for that site was it's 14 units to the acre.
Okay.
So that gets you to your 210 units.
All right. Well, the other thing, once something's built, it's not going to get changed. I mean, there's nothing uglier than a truck parking lot. And to convert that back into housing at some point in time is probably a long, long time in the future, I would imagine. That's my thought. Thank you.
Question for you, Oliver. How close is the airport and other warehouses to this location?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. What we've got, the warehouses are primarily, let's see, Tippecanoe. I'm going to say maybe a mile, maybe half mile.
About a half mile. Okay. All right.
East of baseline?
East of baseline, correct? Okay. Just because obviously we want to utilize it, to its capacity, and it's close enough that to homes where people are actually just parking kind of just on the streets and everything. You always hear every once in a while a complaint from residents saying like, well, there's this semi again and we should put up a sign, and you have neighborhood associations trying to advocate for these things. But if we have this place, then we could actually have them have a designated parking. So I actually do like the project. It does look really nice, and I do appreciate that you guys have a distance from the main streets and everything that is going to have a wall and shrubbery and everything to make it look as nice as possible. Yes.
A question for staff. So I'm sure you probably thought about this already, all over, but I'm going to ask for public purposes. How would this not be inconsistent with state zoning law for spot zoning, for taking an area and zoning for different from the surrounding area residential purposes?
Well,
how would it not be consistent?
Well, we hadn't analyzed it. We don't. Let's see. How do I want to word that? Again, when we contemplated, we followed within the bounds of the specific plan itself. We look at the surrounding area as well, and traditionally spot zoning, we're not. The notion was that we just didn't drop it in the middle of something that was not going to be compatible or what have you. We felt that feeling that there is a use that is serviceable to others. We do zone changes and general plan amendments quite regularly, as you may recall here, and so. Again, we look at the overall consistency of what the general plan says, and so in this particular case, we felt that it didn't. There was some discussion about the SB 330 in terms of the housing and that kind of thing. It still allows for multifamily residential, so that addressed that component. But I don't know if that answers the question. But when we look at the project, looked at the benefits and the surrounding and compatibility, we felt that it was something that could be supported.
If we can go back to the zoning map, the two displays, yeah, right there. So I'm assuming to the left is the existing, and then to the right.
That's correct. Right.
Is the proposed. Mm-hmm. And so that just kind of goes with my question, I guess, kind of dovetail to Commissioner Lopez's concern. That's layout. If you can go to the site plan. So stay there for a minute. So when you look at that, it's all surrounded by residential purposes. So I'm not sure from that standpoint that it would be compatible. You're going from yellow to complete dark blue.
So if I may, from all this here, there's a truck facility that's in here. There's some trucks. My other aerial. Let me see if you could see here. If you look in here, there's a facility here that involves trucking and trailers. To the west of that,
we're just talking about land use. We're not withstanding the uses.
So right here is the facility that has trucks and industrial type use.
Understood.
And in here is an impound yard.
Do you know? Understood. Notwithstanding the uses, the existing uses, we're just talking about land use designation. Right. So the land use designation, it still stay with yellow. I mean, that was contemplated in the original specific plan. So now you're changing it to a dark blue. And if you would go to the site plan, you have a complete, a different layout with all the parking lot, truck trailer storage. Deviating from residential purposes, you're talking about multifamily. Granted, or notwithstanding the analysis on the air quality and such, I'm not sure if we can get away from the spot zoning. I'd like to have maybe council's take on that. I mean, it seems like we're carving this in favor of spot zoning. And I don't know what's constitute a small area, maybe that's a relative word, 5 acres, 15 acres. We're talking about 15 acres here. So, I mean, if we look at the existing designation, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by residential purposes. So would this not be inconsistent with state code?
No, it would not.
Do we have any other further comments on this? No? Yes, Commissioner.
I have a question about to the applicant regarding this establishment, because it's truck and trailer storage yard. Do you have specific operating hours for your business, and how many trucks, trailers you guys have in mind of storing at this yard? Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairperson Sanchez. I'm the owner. My name's Jeff. I wanted to first thank staff for the amount of effort they've put into this project. They have done an extraordinary job in putting this project on the map. It's a piece of dirt right now that hasn't done anything for more than a decade. They recognise that this is moving the city forward, it's progressing the city forward, and unlike some previous speakers up here, I must compliment the staff for being efficient. They've communicated very clearly, and frankly this has been a joy to work with the city on this project. The hours of operation are 12 hours a day. You know, we've approached this project from the mindset that it's an odd-shaped lot. There's never going to be homes, single-family homes on there. It's just not a practical parcel for that. And so building something that had a lesser impact, a lesser environmental impact than what it's already zoned for was a personal goal of ours, and something that we recognise was important for any city. We have two of the nation's top companies already wanting to proceed with the project. So we won't be up here. I'm not going to be up here asking for extensions. You know, we're ready to go, and we're excited by the project. We've also got, as Oliver said, an A team that's on the project. We've got our architect and Kimley Horn and engineers here. So, you know, we're putting a lot of effort and money towards making sure that this is the best of its kind and is a net positive for the city. So I hope that answered your question on the hours. Yep.
Thank you. And then how many trucks and trailers do you anticipate to store on your site? Do you know? Like a rough number? You're talking about 500? 1,000? 100?
I wish there was that many, but no. It's less than 500. It's more like 200. But I'd have to, or maybe less actually. I'd have to count the actual stalls.
And so
but
people,
that's on the map already.
Okay. And so people just pay the established to store the trucks and trailers, kind of like a storage. Okay, just storage. Okay.
Exactly, and to the south on that image there is RVs and trucks. To the west, it's buses. To the north, on Baseline, there's vacant land and also truck storage. So we're kind of in the epicenter of the use that we're requesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
One more question. First, so this was adopted 2017?
16.
2016, so maybe 4 years ago. So it's pretty recent. Do you anticipate that the areas that you mentioned with the existing storage and compound or impound yard, are you anticipating that would somehow be later updated to reflect some of these industrial uses? What is the dark blue? What is that? What is that designation?
It's employment, which is it's a combination of the commercial general and industrial light. It's kind of a hybrid of the two. And if you were to look at the exhibit, if you can see where the areas and where it's located, and much of that area that's the purple in the middle of the screen there's a lot of older industrial uses, some kind of outdated commercial, kind of thing. So it's a mixture. That purple color is just kind of a mixture of hodgepodge of commercial and industrial zones, and there has been inquiries for the sites. So this where right in here, this is where the Waterman baseline. This is where the Waterman Gardens is, or the Arrowhead Grove, as we call it now. And so there has been some inquiries as to whether or not the city would support a modification here, and I believe in this site here, for industrial warehousing, kind of a thing. And so, being that there's a school here, this is across the street from the Waterman Gardens project, so there's a school, and so there's been inquiries here for large industrial warehouses, and we've kind of gently, showed them other places around Waterman specifically because of the school there. But there has been, I don't, and we've talked to these folks here. I don't know that they're going anywhere. I think because there's nowhere else for them to go, based on the type of use that they have in the business. We've had some other auto dismantling places that were relocated a few years ago that were challenges moving them, and so there aren't those large sites for those types of uses, and so I think that we're, lack of a better description, stuck with them there.
So
I'm sorry. So the hope was, while we were contemplating the specific plan, is if it were zoned residential, that maybe it would entice someone to go in there and buy up the dismantling yard and do something different there, and that hasn't happened, and I don't know if that's going to happen in a while.
Appreciate that information.
You're welcome.
So would employment zoning designation, would it allow warehouses? So assuming this proposal...
Not warehouses.
So warehouse distribution facility is not a permitted use in that employment designation?
We could not put a warehouse as would be allowed in a lot like Waterman, like the 400 half-million square footers. Now, if someone wanted to go in and put a light industrial park, maybe where there's a mixture of 50, 40,000 square foot, structures, kind of in a cluster setting, that something like that would be.
I just want to make sure that I think when we do the designation, a lot of times cities, these owners, potential builder, they bail out, and the city left with, holding the bag, and so you could have that designation sit there forever. And now it allows potential warehouses. So now you have a designation that's in the middle of nowhere and, potentially with other permitted uses and not as proposed tonight. It's all dictated by market conditions. And so we just want to be a little bit cautious about that, and that's why I'm asking whether if this would play into the role of would be inconsistent with state zoning code, that this would be spot in favor of a particular developer, individual, and then flip the property at a later date and build warehouses.
Well, like I said, warehousing is not allowed there. It doesn't give a size limitation, but again, it's more employment based, I guess, is what I would say. You're welcome.
All right. If there's no further comments, I will close public hearing for this item, and I will entertain a motion. I will.
You know,
Oh, yes.
Chair, so just for my own, I know I haven't followed up on the definitions and permitted uses within the employment center. I mean, I like that term, employment center, the fact that it's used that terminology. What other uses would be permitted in there? Do you know? Or can you give us some examples?
It would be the, let's say, repair facilities.
I know you said commercial-related uses.
Commercial.
Employment.
Again, the way that we view, I'll use warehouses, warehouse and distribution. I mean, I guess that's one of the elephants in the room. You know, like what we see up and down Waterman. You know, the large distribution or those logistics buildings kind of thing. So our stance is that those are not employment generating facilities, and so it's now if they're making something, you know, processing something, those are uses that would be allowed in there. And I think there's been a number of good points that have been raised here in questions, and it helps me in anticipation because this will be going to the City Council. I anticipate that some of those questions may be coming up as well. And so, yeah, I think does warrant a matrix of what else does this allow in there. But warehousing is not something that's allowed in there.
Thank you.
Okay. So we've covered public hearing for this, and I will entertain a motion for this item. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
So I make the motion. A motion that we move forward.
Move forward, okay. I have a motion. I will second that. So all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Opposed? In favor.
Just the terminology that it's an employment zoning designation. However, I think what for my vote, I think Oliver just explained that warehouses would not be permitted. So if this trailer store usage wouldn't be in the market conditions for the next 3, 4, 5 years, you know, you wouldn't have a warehouse in there next to these sensitive uses, all these other residential designations. Thank you.
All right.
If I may, I appreciate the comments and the questions, you know, because it helps us as staff when we bring forward other projects. It's like, okay, this is what they're going to ask me, so I better be prepared. And we talk about that at staff level all the time. You know, we listen so we know what to write in our reports. So I appreciate the comments and the questioning kind of thing. It helps us better prepare and better present these projects before you. Thank you very much.
So the motion did pass, and congratulations. Welcome to the city. All right. Are there any reports or announcements, Oliver?
If you recall, we had established a subcommittee for the painting for Pepe's. So he is ready, and so how would you like to handle that? Either maybe through could it bring the three of them in, or the three of them available? Do you want to come at different times? How do you want to? What's the preference?
Well, we can coordinate. And do you want to send us an email and then three of us coordinate on a date and time to show up together? Would that work?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
I will tell you that he has suggested the same color that's on the Virgen de Guadalupe church.
Okay. I'm gonna have to
I admit
remember what that looks like.
I admit I have to go look at it myself, but that's
Okay.
that's the color that he wanted to.
Okay. I'll have to refresh my memory of what that looks like, and hopefully there will be other paint
So does
swatches
that mean,
as well.
Oliver, is not the green? Not the...
It's not going to be the green, sadly.
Yes.
It's not going to be the
Or
lime green.
the yellow.
Right.
Chartreuse is always on the table, but I guess it's...
Hopefully we'll have something that agrees with the surrounding buildings.
There you go.
There you go. Yes, so if we can just coordinate with an email to the three of us, and we'll arrange a date
I-
and time.
I will do that. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Any other announcements, Commissioner Wilbur?
I apologize, I got too much Orange County in me. We approved almost 80 acres of subdivision in this meeting. We've got more land in this city than Orange County has available, and we can't get anybody to build on it, develop it, nothing. There's something seriously wrong. And we can't get more retail or anything else without more housing, families. And it just gets me. We got, this is just 80 here. I think, I didn't go back, I could have. We've probably got another 100, 200 acres over the last year, 2 years, we've done the same thing with. And something is wrong because we're not developing. You look at all the other cities around us as well. And I think that, I don't know, I'm not going to answers, but it just seems like something's wrong.
May I?
Then on a different note, totally. Last meeting, it was interesting to me. We had a kind of a discussion on the board here with community development and questions about, what's going on or this going on there. And I know myself, I'm at local meetings, at the grocery store, and people know that I'm a commissioner. What's going on with this? What's going on with that? I don't have a clue. And I think it would be beneficial to, I can only speak for myself, but maybe once a month, and not a who shot who thing, just a informative discussion. What's going on with Waterman Gardens? I get that all the time. What's going on with Waterman Gardens? I don't know. It's just dead land out there. I do know, but it doesn't, it doesn't click very easily. With everything else that we have going on as well. And if we're not informed as commissioners, I think that maybe we can't do what we should be doing. But it's just nothing who shot who or anything else, just information as to how things are going down. And I think that'd be informative. And maybe only every other meeting. I don't know. But
If I may, as a suggestion, if the commissioners would like, you can email us. And maybe if there's a project that you remember, maybe one that you had approved 6 months ago or whatever, and you say, hey, whatever happened to, or did he pull his permits like he said he was going to do, or something like that, just as examples, or like you said, your neighbors, colleagues, or whoever, they ask you questions. If you email those to us, then we can be better prepared, at the commission meeting, and we can either share those with the group, or if it was just kind of an individual question or inquiry, we can do it that way also. So just something to be mindful of. That's something that we can do as well.
It's communication. That's a key to just about everything.
And you're right. I mean, we can't guess what's important to you.
Right.
And what information you want. And if I don't know, I don't know. And so
That would be that's a good idea, Oliver. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For offering. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, and then I think to answer him, I'd just like to say one thing to Mr. Wilbur. I'd agree that we'd like to know the status of certain development with certain applicants. Whether are they, like for example, the Carousel Mall, for example, right? That's just one big example. But just on a side, just overall development, my understanding as an architect working with developers in my line of work, San Bernardino, a very common comment I hear from the circles of developers is that San Bernardino is still we're not a wealth-generating income city yet. We're not there yet. So it doesn't attract business in. So But I think our mayor and the staff and economic development staff like Michael Hunley, Mr. Hunley, they all are working very hard to always attracting and recruiting developers into this town. You know, and I see development around airport area. That's an improvement. It takes time, yes.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to know the status. I don't know if on the website, the economic development website, would that kind of information be posted for public? Would that help? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Lopez.
The meeting that my colleague was referencing is Mr. Huntley was here. And we asked, I think it was I who asked the question about the general plan, what's the status was. Because we heard snips and everything, but we didn't know what was. And he kindly approached the podium in the answer because we had him up there. Then everybody started.
Well, that's why he didn't show up tonight. He was afraid we were going to...
Because, you know, we all know pieces of information, and we are in very important positions reviewing. Each of us represent our own ward, so technically we represent the residents within that ward on these projects, as well as the entire city. And the question about, you know, housing and knowing more, I had a very interesting meeting yesterday. I attended with a group of our neighborhood association presidents the housing summit that they had not too long ago over here. And the lady approached me, Kathleen McConnell, who is the director for mission integration for St. Bernardine. Okay. Their mission being, as she stated, Dignity Health believes that the health of the residents is intimately tied to healthy housing. Where they actually live, whether it's a hovel or not, you know, actually contributes or takes away from their health status, and that was their overall mission. But she's part of this large group of community engagement that covers the core that is developing the Waterman Garden. She talked about another project and so forth. And I told her that we have a disconnect as we hear about these things in pieces, but not the overall plan in the city that housing is going here, here, and here. And we talked about all kinds of things, affordable housing versus affordable home ownership, because she even brought the notion that they're looking at housing for moderate income families, not just because people hear affordable housing and they think low income housing, and that's one of the negative perspectives that a lot of residents have. Because no matter what is approved, it's going to be built in our neighborhoods. And so we need information, especially as people know us serving on the board. And I already told her I want to be involved, so she's going to invite me to their next community engagement meeting, because I'm in a position where I want to learn what is all of this housing and so forth. How does it impact residents? How much feedback do you want from residents? Because that's the reason why when I go to these meetings, people want to come up and say, because they want community feedback, and neighborhood associations represent a lot of those residents. So I think it is important, you know, and I don't know. I'm okay with you saying, you know, send us an email, but that's just one. What I really want is the presentations where all of us here know and have a better understanding with the decisions that we make, how it impacts and what's the whole big picture, you know. And so I think sometimes, aside from just, you know, sending you an email, Oliver, what's going on here and there. And I also have some comments about what the appeal process is, because I've attended a couple at the city council meeting. And usually the ones that I go to are the ones where this board has said no. And the applicant is reminded that you can appeal going before the city council. What I see, this is just my observation, but what I see is the staff at the podium saying everything that was said here to us with what the department's recommendation is. And I thought an appeal had to be done by the applicant. But here we have the city representing the applicant addressing and what the recommendation. And the last time I was there, all I heard from the staff was the planning commission denied it. And there was no discussion and so forth. And one time I went to one of those meetings because I heard the same thing, and I felt that I had to share with the council why the Planning Commission approved one and denied the other. I think it made an impact because, and I'll remind the group, it was a company who wanted to build 2 homes for veterans on East Street, not too far from San Bernardino High School, on the north side of Baseline, and then also on the south side. This group approved the south side for that project, but coming closer to San Bernardino High School and close to a neighborhood, we decided how much could a community bear to have that type of program there, and we didn't approve the other. The applicant did appeal, and there were comments about we were anti-veteran and I don't know what else. And I said, we were not. My father was a veteran. My brother was a veteran. I have nephews that were veterans. People on this panel were veterans also. That wasn't the case. The issue for us was how many of those types of programs could a community have, should have, and why were the ones so close to a high school or a... and one of the council people said, send it back to the planning and let's see if you can mitigate some of these, and that's what we did before it was approved. But I'm concerned about what that appeal process is, because what I see is the staff making or promoting the reasons why it should be approved, and the applicant doesn't even get up to say anything. And there's no one there to say what the other side is unless residents show up, and sometimes they do. So that's another concern that I have, that I'm not so sure how we would address it, or I need more information. Or I don't mean to make more work for you, Oliver, but, you know, it is...
Either way.
You know, I individually...
If I may on that, the resolutions are, those are the key. And when, at the end of the day, when someone reviews, well, when did the commission approve? Why did they approve it? When they look at these things 20 years from now and want to know why the planning commission denied CUP 1919, right? And I left you a copy there on your desk, and in that particular one you will see, well, it's because they were too close to school, there were a couple of churches, the crime rate, the amount of ABC licenses, all those, and so those are critical. The findings are critical. And I don't want to belabor the Veterans Home thing. Those were 2 identical projects. Staff was recommending approval on both. They were essentially the same project.
Which have not been built.
Right? Yeah, they have. They were essentially the same project, and yes, there was some dialogue among the planning commissioners as to some concerns, and we had some residents come up, and all the neighborhood and PTSD and all these other things were discussed. Okay, all legitimate comments, concerns, or what have you. So as a suggestion in the future, and again, we're trying to move forward here, in the future, if you see something, we have an item before you and you're inclined to, let's say, a denial, when we're recommending approval, it's clear it's important to say, I don't support this project because this, and this. Those findings. And so, those are, and these are growing pains that we'll go through. And so again, if you're not supportive of a project and you're inclined to make a motion, to deny it, after all, it's like, why? So then, if you recall, there were a couple times when we came back to the commission. I think it was the project on East Street, where we came back and said, okay, are you guys are you guys, I shouldn't say that, are you as a commission, are you agreeable with why you denied it? And we brought the resolution back, and it's like, yes, this is why we denied it. And then the record's clear. If they want to appeal and the council makes a different decision, that's okay. On the other hand, I think what your point was, if we yes, we do make the same presentation because we are presenting the facts.
Well,
and the merits of the project. And then, and you're right, the conversation is, how much, Believe it or not, we're not defense attorneys. We're not up there to defend or oppose a project, you know, and it's, and.
I think, if I may, I think the intentions are there, and the staff do work hard. We understand that. We oftentimes don't see, at least I've not always seen, resolutions after the fact, after this board has made a decision. So what is presented to the council, and that they all read that and everything. But what another point is, you are presenting the fact. The fact should also be presented on the other side as well, why it was not approved. Because then I don't think it's a fair process. And maybe we need a more informed citizens, you know, who oppose that. Sometimes they are there, and so forth. But I had heard, I've gone to a few that were appealed. And what I see is really just the staff presenting the facts, the very same facts here. And that weighs influential to the city council. Just like if there were a lot of citizens there to oppose, that would be influential in how they made their decision. When I believe that if I had not gone to the meeting when there was a discussion of the two homes on East Street and had not raised why the commission voted against it, and it was by a majority because we approved one but not the other, and we explained to the applicant why. And I had heard, you know, that we were anti-veteran, and I don't know what else, and I went there to dispel that. That wasn't the issue about veterans and so forth, because many of us have family or are veterans ourselves. The issue was how much could that community bear, and it was, as I recall, I think Councilman Nichols that said there seems to be some questions here, and he made the motion to send it back and let's see if you can work out some of those things, and the council agreed. I think if I had not been there to raise those other concerns that I think should have been noticed by the council about all of this, that there was a reason why it was not approved, or why was one approved and the other one wasn't. Otherwise, they would have only heard from the staff, and your recommendation was to approve it based on the facts as you saw them. We obviously saw different facts or different conditions or factors that changed our mind to not approve the one, and the developer was there to answer any questions, but there wasn't anybody else.
Well, we don't change our recommendation.
No, well, what I'm
saying
is the process, I don't think is always, and it does appear as if the city is really doing the appeal for the applicant after a denial.
There appears to be a disconnect between the Planning Commission and the council. So what Commissioner Lopez is saying, there's a disconnectivity, excuse me, that, you know, the opinions expressed here, why it was denied may have not been conveyed. So I'm curious, was there any background information in terms of staff report that would allow, you know, the opinions expressed here to be incorporated in and express that through the staff report? And, you know, based on what my colleague just said, there seems to be a disconnectivity, and that's a concern.
So in the denials that were appealed, we well, in all items that go forward to the city council, if it's like item number 9 or appeals, we will say that the Planning Commission adopted Resolution X approving or denying the project, and if it's a denial, we will say why the denial was there, and so that's so we do include that.
I think.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, Amelia, at this point and everything, because the staff is doing exactly what they're able to. They do give their reason, and I know it sounds like there's a disconnect. And if you hadn't been there for the appeals, you know, things might have gone a little differently. But I think we need to, just as citizens as well, contact our councilmen. They did elect us for this position, so we do have contact with them, and we can inform them as well if something goes to appeals. That way, they can be informed as well, because they're being presented, you know, hundreds of cases, and if we bring that to their attention, not just everything that's approved, we can actually voice it there, if not ourselves going to the meetings, because staff can only go so far arguing our case because they do have to present the fact as it is.
So I suggest in those items where there's a denial by the Planning Commission or recommendation of denial, I will prod, if you will, to clarify why there is the denial, and I will I ask for more discernment and dialogue as to, okay, so when we go, when we take this item to the city council, next month or whatever the case is, that there's that clear representation of why that action was done. And if it's, like I've said before, if there have been times when there's been a silence and it's hard for us to guess. And so I'll take it upon myself to challenge the group, if you will, in a positive nature, to okay, so we don't like it, why? And let's go through that resolution and be clear. Why doesn't it meet the general plan? Why doesn't it meet the development code? What city council policies doesn't it follow? And then if there's a strong opinion as to why there's a denial, then that's clear.
I think those are very good points. I will have to say on behalf of the councilman that appointed me to this position, whenever this commission denies something and it's appealed, we have a conversation. He'll either call me or I call him, but most part he'll call me when he's reading his agenda. So I think that's a good way to do it, just so everybody's kind of knowing what the issues are. Okay. Yeah.
And thank you again, Oliver, for putting that in, because there is that disconnect, and we do want to be able to voice our opinion and actually have good representation, not being against veterans or whatever other issue like that. But I mean, if possible, we will try to unanimously at least bring up a certain point, so that you can put in for a good word for us.
One more item, Oliver. So speaking of appeal, there was a there was a donut shop in a certain neighborhood that was denied by the Planning Commission. Was that ever appealed?
It was approved. Of course not, Amelia. No, I'm teasing. Yes, it did. Again, we did in that particular. It seemed that the consensus was that this is there's an existing neighborhood, small business, local, and we've got the big bad corporate office or business, ousting the.
Oliver, if I could say one more thing. On the extensions on these projects up there in the Vermont area, generally speaking, when they come to us and ask for an extension, I've kind of always been under the impression that they are requesting that extension because on their own accord because of financing or whatever it might be. But when I hear of these developers having trouble getting through the process, that's really bothersome, and we've dealt with that at the Chamber of Commerce for the last, I've been there 35 years, and we have seen developers come and go, and I've actually talked to developers that have sworn they'll never do work in this city again because of the process that they go through. So basically, it'd sure be nice if there was some way to streamline it. And when I say streamline it, I'm looking way back when you could get a permit over the counter for some of these projects. I know you can't do that any longer, but it'd really be nice if there was a way to help expedite some of these projects.
I would agree. I mean, my only comment, and not to sound combative, but if you have to go through 8 rounds of corrections, what happened to the other 6 times? If I tell you to change the spelling and you don't do it, so I mean, I think there's some accountability on the other side as well, and I I won't get into it, but, you know, I agree. I mean, there is a process. We do sit down with applicants. We go through their plans. We have our building official that will sit down and go, you know, after the second go-around of corrections and say, okay, here's what I see, how are you going to fix it? These are the red lines. And so, yeah, but no, I agree. There's always a better way of doing things.
I have to agree with you, Oliver. As an architect, I deal with, like, you know, jurisdictions, you know, planning departments, Department of Public Works, City of LA is particular. That's my work. It's all in City of LA, you know, right? And developers, a lot of times, Larry, yeah, I do agree that they don't pick up their remarks from the plan checks. And they may complain, but then again, there are also times that when it is not the developers, it is on the jurisdiction, you know. So I'm not going to take sides when I don't know the project. But a lot of times those big developers, they will have hire expediters. They're professional expediters. They take the projects in, going through the plan check process, right? And so expeditors are experienced with those jurisdictions, and then should be taken care of.
Well,
I don't take sides.
dealing with various cities and dealing with DSA, I've seen plans put into plan check. They're redlined. You correct those red lines, you resubmit them, and now there's more red lines in other areas that were never looked at before. So by the time you correct those and resubmit them, all of a sudden you've got new corrections. So there should be some kind of rule that says once you've plan checked it and you redlight and all that's been corrected, no more, you know, no more red lines. So it happens.
Well, this is not really part of planning commission topic. No, I don't think this should be recorded because this is really like a professional trade of what we do. You know?
We need to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Right before we adjourn, I want to congratulate the different councilmen and councilwomen who won their election. My councilman, Juan Figueroa, actually won, so congratulations to him. And is there any other reports that want to be given? If not, that's enough? Okay, so I will hereby entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. We have a second already. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, none opposed. Wonderful. Good night, everyone.